submit to the High Council here on World Class Bullshitters. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks, and with me tonight is Mecha Random 42.
We got a fancy intro. I was not expecting that. Holy crap.
I know, right?
We can thank Culture Casino for that. Thank you, good sir, if you're out there listening. Thank you. Thank you.
Culture Casino is definitely here tonight. I saw him in the chat already. So yes, Culture Casino, thank you very much. That thing was awesome. We really appreciate it. And now we have a video. So I feel like we've churched up the High Council a little bit.
Well, we're over 100 episodes, so we're in syndication now. We gotta, fancy it up a little bit.
Yeah, change the intro so they know which season is which, right?
This is episode 103.
Yeah. Actually, I put the wrong title card. This is like 107.
107.
I gotta fix the title card afterwards because I was like, shit.
We can edit that.
So, folks, we're also joined by Tom of Midnight's Edge After Dark.
Oh, that's right. We're live. Shit. Yeah. Hello. How's everybody doing out there?
Quick, put your stash away.
Not here. And then finally, folks, we're starting off tonight. Yes, we had a new fancy, flashy intro. It's incredible. We have a big special guest, but we're starting off with an even bigger special guest and a special word from our friend, author Stephen Walton.
Hail to my brothers and sisters in the chat. Hail to the chat, the High Council chat, where your historian, the Fandom Menace historian, was born. Before the dark times, before social justice warriors and woke culture, we, the fandoms, were divided. Not by race, gender, or sexual orientation, but by our love for our preferred modern mythologies. Who was the best doctor? Who was the ultimate Star Trek captain? What video or tabletop game is the finest? Could the X-Men beat the Justice League? Which Star Wars movie was the greatest of all time? These were once our debates. These our heated conversations built upon unyielding passion and loyalty. The most prolific discussions amongst geeks and nerds, wholeheartedly embroiled in a fantastical ambiance of lore and legend created for us by imaginative world builders seeking only to tell stories of wonder and magic. These were once our passions, our battleground of ideas, our adoration for our modern mythologies. Then came those who did not respect what had came before them, had no understanding or connection to the deep resonance such epic tales of heroes and heroines meant to those that had supported them for decades. These repurposers, soulless corporate know-it-alls, snatched these properties from from gaming to comics, from television to movies, a horde of disingenuous closet racists spewing onto the great worlds of imagination that we had held close to our hearts as tales of hope and inspiration. Their vacant eyes unable to conceive of anything but their own quarterly earnings. Their empty ears deaf to every fandom's cry of outrage. Their acidic, floundering tongues barely capable of intelligible lies, projections, and accusations that we, the fandoms, are the sexist, racist, and as hate-fueled as they. And with empty eyes, deafened ears, disingenuous hearts, and dull wits, they never expected us. We, the geeks and nerds of yesteryear, out of all our fandoms, genres, and our love for inspirational escapist entertainments, have finally decided collectively that we indeed do all agree on one thing. Get your politics out of our entertainment. And it was here, every Tuesday night for the past 2 years, that we came together upon this hallowed earth to rise up and proclaim that without respect, we reject. To rise together in unison to defend these things we love. To stand beside one another against the shills and their lies. The access media misinformation campaigns. The repurposers of open attacks against the fandoms. We do not kneel. We are the Fandom Menace. We were created by you, and we will not stand idly by while you destroy the things that we love. And we stand together here, same world-class time, same bullshitting channel, and cry, all hail the High Council.
Amen.
Yeah, If you can pick up the applause over the microphone, dude. What is you are like a coach before a football game. It's like, all right, boys, this is the Super Bowl. This is our locker room speech. So if
was
we ever go into
basically what I
battle,
wanted. Yes.
I'm calling you, man.
Yes, we need this man to get us fired up.
Did you write that, or is that just from your heart?
He made that shit all up right now.
Improv.
Yeah, no, I wrote it out yesterday.
Okay.
I was gonna lie for you, man.
Because I'm like, it was so spot on. Not a.
I was like,
single
motherfucker
flub
just
was
made it up
flawed.
right now.
So you brought up in your intro, this is a quick and easy transition. Yes, I'm telling you what it is. I sound like Perd Hapley, Jesse. This is a transition, so I'm transitioning topics.
You could have thought of a better way to tell us all, Jeff. You know,
But no, yeah. Well, hold on. I'll tell Jesse first when I have that talk with her. But
I was gonna say,
you jokingly brought up X-Men versus Justice League, and a member of the Justice League is Batman. And there's been a ton of news. Tom, I know I've seen you post about it. I know Midnight's Edge has covered it. I saw the news yesterday, and I was like, oh my God, because I thought it was a joke. I looked at the date because I thought it was April Fool's Day. I was like, Michael Keaton, Batman? No.
I thought it was clickbait at first. I thought, okay, he's just like, this is just a rumor, right? Because I saw it from We Got This Covered first. And then I saw it coming from Variety. I'm like, oh shit, this is legit. What the crap?
it actually originated from the rap. And then
Yeah.
Variety confirmed it, that they were in talks. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Yeah.
They are still in talks, but it's when something like this gets out and the studio can't deny it, or at least whatever, then that generally means it's in the final phases. And this is something we've heard rumors about for a while now, that, you know, Keaton is warmed up to the idea. I reposted a commencement speech that somebody else posted where, you know, where he's like, I got 2 words for everybody. I'm Batman. You know,
Dude, that's one of the best commencement speeches ever. I wish that was my college. I'm jealous.
Right? And up until recent years, he had not really wanted to talk about Batman at all. Like, it was like one of those things that was notorious. I think even one of the talk show hosts brought up the fact to him that normally it was, you know, persona non grata when it came to Batman questions, but he's like, it's been lifted. I can ask you about Batman. He's like, oh yeah, you know, I just kind of thought about it. It's like, why am I harboring this? Blah, blah, blah. Something like that, you know, paraphrasing basically. But so I think he's warmed up to the idea. I think he between being in a Spider-Man movie and how I think Birdman was a lot of therapy for him. Do you remember that movie from a few years back?
Bought it on Blu-ray. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I think that movie was like a lot of therapy for him and going through the Batman stuff. I really do. Because since then he's been open and completely on board, it seems like. So this is, and ever since the Snyder stuff, I've been hearing rumblings from my people that they're really going to start pushing for this multiverse business. So that goes along with the other stuff that Andre heard and reported about today, and kind of goes with some of the things we're hearing about in this article. So I'm not surprised. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I'm hearing some other rumors about Ben Affleck TV shows on HBO Max, so we'll see.
Last week I was vehemently opposed to multiple Batmans. Now that it's my favorite Batman, I'm just like, yay, Batman. I don't give a shit. I read all the articles. I know it's supposed to be he's Bruce Wayne, multiverse Flash, all this crap. But it's funny. First off, real quick, Tom, to talk about the point you mentioned about Batman, Michael Keaton refusing the whole Batman talk. It was interesting if you go back and you watch, even on the 20th anniversary DVD, no, later, like the 25th anniversary DVD set of Batman 89, there's a little snippet where he talks about how people come to him and go, oh my God, it's Batman. And he always like, I don't like that. Why can't they think of anything else I've done? So it is really nice that he's really embraced this.
Yeah, all the special features on those DVDs are actually interviews from years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're not anything new. The only time he said anything new was on I think it's the 30th anniversary Blu-ray that came out. It was a Diamond Deluxe edition. They have a bonus disc where it's just a 30-minute featurette thing where they talk about the success of Batman. So after 30 years, they get Michael Keaton to finally talk about Batman, and all they do is just sit there and stroke their egos about how much the movie made. I'm like, why didn't you just make a hell of a documentary? You got Michael Keaton finally to talk about Batman retrospectively, not while it's going on, because all those interviews and those discs are from that time period when the movies were made. So,
well, what's blowing my mind is this news comes out today on the anniversary of Batman 89. June 23rd is the anniversary of the film, so it's the perfect day. 31 years ago, wide release Batman came out, and it's interesting. I'm going to bring this up in a minute. IGN put out an article about why Michael Keaton is the best Batman. But if you've noticed over the last, like, I don't know how active everyone here was on the internet, but I used to be on the IMDb message boards every day, way too much. And it used to be the temperature of the room was Michael Keaton sucked, Christian Bale's awesome. But because we've moved past Christian Bale, past Ben Affleck, technically, now it comes back full circle. I find it interesting how everyone, when you have these iconic characters played by multiple actors, when like it's always the next one is the best, the newest one, and the last guy sucked, you hated him. But if you go back, he was successful, people loved him, it was iconic, he was a household name. Same with Pierce Brosnan as James Bond. We've been in this whole Brosnan sucks, he's wooden, he's the worst James Bond. The further we get through Daniel Craig and it comes full circle again, people are like, maybe he should come back, he was the best, he was my favorite. So it's nice that these actors that play these iconic roles, yeah, they get shit on in the post whatever. Thankfully, somebody like a Pierce Brosnan had a career. Michael Keaton had a career after Batman as well. But we go full circle now, and now they're regarded as the best. Maybe it's an age thing. Maybe it's, people my age grew up with Michael Keaton Batman, and then they're like, well, Christian Bale's so cool and edgy and dark. He's my favorite. And then you kind of soften with age, and you go, Michael Keaton brought all this to the table. Mm-hmm. So it's nice how, yes, today's the anniversary. Yes, he's coming back. And yes, people have kind of just gotten over themselves of, I hate to be controversial at the beginning of the show. Actually, I don't give a shit. I'm so tired of people sucking off the Christopher Nolan trilogy. They're a good series of movies. They're not the best Batman movies. It's Heat with Batman in it, and it's awesome.
Jeff,
but it's not Batman.
I mean, I like The Dark Knight. Batman Begins is okay, and Dark Knight Rises is overrated or worse.
All right, here's my thing. Keaton has always gotten heat since they first hired him to do that job. They had said he couldn't be Batman. And then he came in, worked with Tim Burton, did Batman and Batman Returns, in my opinion, two of the greatest Batman movies ever made. And now, of course, just like Jeff said, every time there's a new Batman, the new thing is hotter, the new thing is better. Look, the Nolan trilogy is great. If you encapsulate that trilogy and put it on a shelf and dust it off and look at it by itself, it's great. You put it in the overall DC universe, it sucks ass. It doesn't make sense. So the Nolan trilogy encapsulated, wonderful thing. I love watching it. I'll put it over here and leave it. But if I want real Batman, like if I want a Batman that really inspires me to go to the movie theaters, I'm looking forward to Michael Keaton because he set the trend for Batman from the Batman animated series to several movies afterward, to several cartoon movies afterward. He set that trend with Tim Burton. So I would love to see him come back. My question is, are they bringing in Michael Keaton to make up that because nobody likes Ezra Miller's Flash?
I don't know. I'm surprised Ezra Miller's still there. And I got to say this to Gutter Jedi in the chat, or Guitar Jedi, sorry, not Gutter. Guitar Jedi, he says, this casting reeks of desperation. I thought the same thing at first, but the more and more I'm hearing it, the more and more I'm hearing AT&T's like, give the people what they fucking want.
Right.
That's all I keep hearing.
My phone plan if they keep giving us movies like this.
That's the mantra over there, I guess, when it comes to this is just give the people what they want. Sorry, Steven, you were going to say
something. No, you're fine, buddy. The success of the Snyder Cut, of that little niche in the fandom, that they were doing their own thing, and they got what they wanted, and the entire fandoms, more than just that fandom, celebrated, because that was finally a success. We finally made it through the wall. Our voice finally meant something, and now they're going to be producing that. So maybe this is the tipping point. Maybe these companies are finally going to understand, hey, maybe we should listen to the fans instead of just, the guy in the corporate office who's only worried about the quarterly earnings and says, oh, yeah, this flashy piece of shit. It'll do great. It'll make $1 billion and it'll be great. No, we want something that lasts. We want something that means something to us as fans. Michael Keaton's Batman means something to me. I will go and support that.
I will too. Now, it's funny how much I go on about Michael Keaton Batman. But before I do, Mecca, what were your thoughts about all of this stuff? We haven't asked you yet.
Well, like I said originally, I was shocked that it was even true. Now, okay, so for somebody, this was like the first, big movie Batman that I experienced when I was a kid, because I was that little kid watching the 60s TV series and staying home and playing hooky from school just to watch that and Lost in Space on USA. So that was probably like 1989, 90, right around the time when the movie came out, like the new movie, and it was a huge deal. So I think this is going to put a lot of butts in seats of people who are just kind of burned out on Batman, even because, like, I'm one of those people. I'm a little burned out on Batman. And even me, I'm like, oh, now I'm curious. What are they going to do? I'd like to see Michael Keaton again because that's like probably my second favorite of all of them because I'm still Adam West because I'm such a 60s TV freak. But
Dig it.
I do want to know, I do question though. I wonder if this is going to be a way to kind of get rid of Ezra Miller in some point. Like maybe it'll have him in for like
Maybe.
a scene.
They
You
might
think-
have him die in it or something. You never know.
Yeah.
Thank
Well,
God.
here's the thing. Here's the thing where they almost kind of put their foot in their mouths because they had to announce this on the same day that we found out of the passing of Joel Schumacher, that his 2 movies, when this happens, will theoretically be kicked out of the canon.
Hmm.
And
Now,
that's
we'll-
kind of a bummer, but I get it.
Here's the thing, Tom. Now, Jesse on her stream tonight, she's doing an ode to Joel Schumacher. We're going to be talking Batman. I think she might even have Batman Forever on in the background. There's like
That's
a
what she was saying.
impromptu thing. But like, no, I like Batman Forever. I've never denied liking it. I think it's great. But most people confuse Batman Forever for Batman and Robin, and Batman and Robin's dog shit. And a lot of fans will just go, okay, who cares that, about the legacy of Joel Schumacher? Batman and Robin suck. Let's wipe them both out. And I am okay with Batman and Robin getting taken out of continuity. I really don't care if Batman Forever gets taken out of continuity because that series is over. It's not like a Star Wars, or here's a better example. It's not like a Halloween film where there are 12 or 13 different films. And I actually showed Jesse Halloween for the first time the other night. I said, which direction do you want to take this? Do you want to take this theatrical route where we go 1, 2, all the way to, H or Resurrection? Do we want to take the modern approach where we cut out 4, 5, and 6? Do we cut out all of them except 1 and go to the new one? So, I mean, it's one of those weird choose your own adventure for a film.
Totally.
And,
I just think it was kind of like, oh shit, they had to drop that on the same day. And again, into like the whole thing with Joel Schumacher, and I brought this up too. The legacy of Batman is like a shadow overshadowing his entire career that most people overlook. Like Joel Schumacher was an amazing director. Amazing director, and he never got enough credit for the other stuff that he's done. People forget that this guy directed St. Elmo's Fire.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Falling Down. He directed A Time to Kill, The Client. I mean, the list goes on and
My
on and
favorite
on.
movie
Lost
ever made.
Boys, of course.
Yeah, Lost Boys.
Flatliners, another one with Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah.
I mean, we could sit here all day talking about the movies he's done that are great compared to the two movies that everybody always brings up that he did, especially the one, like you said. And guess what, folks? He actually apologized for it.
And they're not even that bad, even. like, can you really sit there and
Batman
say,
and Robin was bad. I wanted to leave the theater, but I couldn't because I didn't drive.
you could throw them on with like riff tracks and watch them. I watched one of them with riff tracks, and it wasn't that bad.
I bought it on Blu-ray because I got it for $3. Okay, literally. Otherwise, I would not buy it.
They're not great, but like seriously, they're not like it's not Star Trek Discovery.
Right. I'll watch them. Like I can get enjoyment out of those movies. I don't have a problem with that. I just prefer the 2 that came before them. That's all.
I'm just never going to buy Batman and Robin on 4K. Now, the first 3, maybe. But anyway, you're saying, go ahead.
I watched Batman and Robin the other day out of curiosity because it was on HBO Max. And so I got to the part right after Poison Ivy was created and Bane was made, and then we turned it off and never went back. If I never
Nice to meet you.
It's
a cold time and hard time tonight.
Well, I usually don't play the age card here, but I'm the youngest person on the council, so I remember as a kid being like, Batman was my first real superhero. Yeah, I had Spider-Man on tape, but before the Spider-Man cartoon came out, Batman the animated series had been on for over 2 years at that point. So we're talking Batman toys, Batman added Batman jacket, the cartoon, the movie, whatever. Batman was my shit. So we get to Batman Forever. It was kind of like a nice blend of the cartoon and the realistic version of the movies. Because back then I hadn't read many Batman comics. Batman '89 was a good movie, but I didn't get everything that I was talking about at the time.
Right.
You're a little kid. I mean, I'm 6 months old when the movie came out, so we're talking 3-4 years old watching that.
Oh,
movie.
wow.
I forget how much younger than you are than me.
So
Yeah, me too.
I was in a junior in high school when that movie came out. Literally, when Arnold Schwarzenegger come out and he's like, "Nice to meet you," because I think that was his first line or whatever. I'm like, nope, fuck this shit, I'm out. I said that out loud. I'm like, no, what the hell? Because I yelled at my friend. She's like, you got to come see it. It's the best Batman movie ever. I'm like, oh, Batman Forever wasn't even that great. It was all right.
Mhm.
But I seen the previews and I'm just like, I can't buy Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Oh,
I said, you got Bane. Why the fuck ain't he playing Bane? It's like he is Bane.
Oh, they did Bane wrong. They did Bane wrong. Bane was a new character. They had just had the the whole series where Batman broke his back.
Nightfall,
They didn't do him right. But you know what? In the style that it was done was kind of an homage to the '60s series. And in that, I grew up on that series watching Nickelodeon when I was a kid. It was always on, so like I did like it for that. And I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger can pull off a serious Mr. Freeze.
Oh, I think he should have been Bane, though. I think he would have been much better in Bane, and he would have done it much more justice than what we got.
Probably, yeah.
And I agree with you, Steven. I made that argument several times after the movie came out. It's like, yeah, I hate it, but I get what Schumacher was going for. He was trying to do the 60s Batman in live action, or not live action, but in a movie, like a modern movie kind of thing in the modern version. And it just didn't work. And again, you can't blame him for that. It was Warner Brothers. And then he still turned around and took 110% responsibility for the whole damn thing.
Wow, you don't get that nowadays.
No, and that's the thing that Andre did point out, and I've said too, and everybody else has too. It's like, there's some people who could take some notes from that,
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit, it's called tact. It's called, the customer, is right for a change, instead of telling the customer that your opinion doesn't matter and you're an istophobe for not liking something.
Hell.
Do you think 19 seconds of a video is going to cause us a problem?
What you going to show?
Joel Schumacher apologizing for Batman and Robin?
No, I think that would be all right. I mean, maybe if you pause in the middle, but I don't think so.
Well, here, let's...
I don't think they're as touchy on special features as they are like the movie.
Well, here we go right here. This is just an apology from Joel Schumacher.
Because this is actually on the DVDs and Blu-rays, yeah.
If there's anybody watching this that, let's say, loved Batman Forever and went into Batman and Robin with great anticipation, if I disappointed them in any way, then I really want to apologize.
Damn, God bless him.
I'm just saying, nobody has the balls to do that anymore.
Wow.
No, because he genuinely felt like he did something wrong, I mean, and he actually took responsibility for it. And you don't get that a lot. And that's why I loved the guy. I've always ripped on him, and we just talked about him the other night. I was just giving him shit. And I felt so bad for it. It was like, oh my God, I didn't know he was sick,
Yeah, I didn't either. When I woke up and saw that Joel Schumacher died, I was like, really? I didn't realize how old Joel Schumacher was.
Well, to be clear, I wasn't like being mean to him. I was just, pointing, out the whole, making fun of the whole goofy Batman and Robin business. But still,
let me tell you. But look at Tom. Let me tell you something. When everybody's cool with jokes, and then somebody dies, and we're gonna act like you're insensitive. One, how would you know he's dead? And you made it.
No, I know. I just feel bad.
There's no way did you make fun of the guy's legacy. You started out by saying, "Oh, he made all these great films. It sucks that he lives in the shadow of Batman and Robin," which is a very fair point. And it's funny how he brought up in his apology, if you love Batman Forever. As a kid, I thought Batman Forever was the best thing ever for a while.
Oh, I loved Batman Forever. I just didn't. It just was like at that point, I was like, it's not Tim Burton's Batman anymore.
Well, when I saw Batman and Robin as a kid, I didn't like this. I didn't like it at all. I said it was one of those things when I was a kid. My mom would take me to the movies, but I had to ask her a bunch because it was like, I'll buy you whatever you want, but if it's something that I have to pay for to do too, it was kind of a harder sell. So like, she's like, oh yeah, if you want to go to, I don't know, Kings Island with your aunt here, whatever. But it was like, I don't want to go as well. But when it came to Batman and Robin, she went with me, and that movie sucked so hard. Even as a kid, I was like, what is this?
My son, bringing up kids when he was 8, 9, and 10. Those were his movies. That's what I watched with those two Batman movies, and he loved them. I tried to watch the Tim Burton ones. He was like, I don't know, it's just a lot too dark. So I mean,
that's a great point, Steven. I mean, with kids, they resonated big time.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that. I mean, that you can't take away from it. I mean, yeah, they're cheesy and goofy, but no, I mean, it's sad that most people remember those movies instead of all the good shit he's done.
Yeah, but I mean, the things like that, it also like that led to like me and my son playing Batman Legos, and we've played all then that led into the other DC Lego games, and that was because of him enjoying those movies. It just when you see something as a fan that grafts onto you, that you really appreciate, that becomes a part of who you are, and a part of your outlook, then that spreads out to other things, other genres, other platforms like gaming and so forth, comics or whatever, and that's something that the modern industry has forgotten. They're too busy worried about their quarterly gains and not creating something with longevity, and especially not respecting the customer.
No, it's refreshing. I see people in the chat talking about, like Greg O says, imagine if Ryan Johnson did this 10 years from now. First off, I don't think we'll be talking about The Last Jedi in a way that deserves money being pumped into a special features reel, but I would pay, $5 for to rent it to hear Ryan Johnson apologize.
Maybe, but at the same time, we didn't have, Joel wasn't out there going, oh, you guys are just a bunch of assholes because you don't like my movie. And you're a bunch of istophobes. You don't like my movie because I'm gay or something like, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of shit Ryan's doing now. So it's really hard to forgive somebody, even if they do say they're sorry after they've called you every name in the book.
I look at it like this, right? Joel Schumacher had a career decades before Batman and Robin and decades post. Ryan Johnson is fairly new to the game. Yeah, he had Looper in 2008, and he had a couple movies. I think it's like 2003 is when his career started. I mean, Ryan Johnson has been out 17 years, done a small handful of films, and it's funny, maybe this isn't going to be turned into like a Joel Schumacher appreciation thing, but his career was better than Ryan Johnson's at that same point. I mean, Jesse, for her stream tonight, pulled up all of his films, and we're like, wow, he did this. He was involved with The Wiz. Holy shit. Ryan Johnson
was a pimp, too. He slept with like 20,000 people.
Well, hey, good for him.
Yeah. He's like the ultimate hippie, dude. Motherfucker made Lost Boys. That's all I got to say.
Making movies, smoking grass.
I know Mecca appreciates that. He couldn't have done nothing else in his life but make Batman Forever, Batman and Robin, and Lost Boys, and I'd still be sitting here going, he does not get enough credit for Lost Boys.
Lost Boys is my favorite vampire movie, hands down.
Yeah, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird too, though. Okay, sorry, what were you saying, Mecca?
Oh, it is just my favorite movie, I think.
The only thing that I find weird is like how accepting everyone is of that movie. Like we all love it, but the vampires are just such a dated like design for the guys. And and I don't think like Twilight will ever have that same appeal because it's not. I've never seen it, so I can't judge it as a film. But The Lost Boys is a good movie on top of having like pretty boy vampires, but they all die horrible, grisly deaths. So I think that's what really balances the movie. It's not.
Well, I'll say this for Twilight: I'll never forget sparkling vampires.
They even sparkle a little bit in Lost Boys, but when they vamp out, those suckers vamp out.
They're evil, right? If they're supposed to be monstrous looking.
Yeah.
The only time they sparkle is when they blow up. Well, that's not true. They did put. Sorry, Mecca. I was just going to say they did put glitter all over the vampires in that movie. You can notice it now in HD, and because the makeup artist was bitching about that one day. He's like, she's like, Twilight stole that from me.
Well, I mean, that was also a thing of the time too. You know, the glitter effect when they were doing fantastical films.
It's real subtle in the makeup. But you were going to say something, Mecca. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just thinking like that Twilight is so dated because it is one of those things that girls who have the crush on, Edward Twilight, whatever his name is, they kind of outgrow that a little bit. Now, like The Lost Boys, for example, is something where even for somebody like me who had a crush on Corey Feldman as a kid, it's still something where I can watch as an adult and I can appreciate it for a whole nother thing. I can appreciate it as, the divorced mom and the family aspect. I can appreciate the humor from it. And there's not a lot of other stuff in Twilight. There's not a lot of, and I don't like Twilight. I've only watched them with riff tracks. And I don't see them holding up because there's nothing really to go back to unless you're like super into that fad, unless you're super into that phase of your life, because there's really not a whole lot of generational appeal. It's only really for the people who are crushing on the vampires.
I don't know, man. I knew a 50-year-old gay dude we used to call Pops. He loved that series.
It's a great movie.
One of the problems with Twilight, which why especially the films won't age well, is they're just not that good.
Oh yeah, Twilight.
From a filmic standpoint, I mean that's and part of what Mecca's saying is absolutely right. There's nothing to go back to. There's no value in it unless you have one of those crushes. Because even as a person, even if you're someone who's like, oh man, I have the hugest crush on Robert Pattinson as a girl, you're gonna go back and you're gonna realize he looks weird as fuck, and this movie is not even watchable. And you're like, oh crap, I clearly had terrible taste in cinema as a 16-year-old.
And he's dumber than a box of rocks.
Clearly.
So I mean, you're kind of he's good looking, but motherfucker couldn't fix it.
Think he's that good looking.
No, he's weird looking.
No, I know, but I'm just saying from like a woman's point of view. I love Lost Boys. One thing about Santa Clara I can never understand: all that goddamn vampires.
Oh, Monkey Jeebus in the chat says Life Force is the best vampire movie ever. I guess you could technically say it's a vampire movie, but yes, that is definitely one of my
I know.
favorites.
Those are named Matilda May, right? That's
Matilda
her name?
May, yeah.
Fright Night was really good too, though.
The whole time. But like I said, over on Mindless Entertainment tonight, Jesse's got a whole thing planned about Joel Schumacher. The link's in the chat. If you guys want to join us after the High Council, it'll be fun to geek out about Batman some more. But we're not done talking about Batman right now. I actually,
Sorry, I just want to say, if people are clicking the link, if you guys are coming over later, drop in the comments your favorite Batman Forever moment and your least favorite Batman and Robin moment.
Oh yeah, we're gonna rail on Batman and
My
Robin.
favorite Batman Forever moment is Holy Rusted Metal Batman.
Yeah.
Fully rusted metals. Tom
That's
said.
the best moment. That's one of the best. That might be the best moment in Batman. Period. Like including all written versions and comics.
He's like, what? He's like, the metal, it's all rusty and it's got holes in
metal,
it.
it's made of metal and full of holes. Holy. Just his responses. We might even play that clip later because it's like 10 seconds long.
I laughed so hard.
Dude, because his Batman's responses, he goes, huh? And then
Right.
when Robin, for some reason, bafflingly decides to explain one of the more ridiculous holy blank Batmans, Batman's response is, of course, oh. Huh? Oh, the greatest acting moment ever. Thank you, Val Kilmer, for bringing that to us. And thank you, Chris O'Donnell, for somehow delivering that with a straight face.
Yes.
Yeah, the other best line is the bat signal is not a beeper.
I'm partial to joygasm.
I'll get drive through.
I like.
I love Joy. Oh,
Caffeine will
Jim
kill
Carrey's
ya.
great. Yeah, caffeine will kill you.
Surf's up, big kahuna.
That whole scene where what's his name, Ed whatever his face, Ed Begley Jr. comes into the Riddler.
Everything from there on is like Jim Carrey at his finest, and I
Yeah.
guarantee
Yeah.
that.
Oh, he was on fire that
Did I
year.
tell you? I've told this story to Jesse, guys. I don't know if you know this story, but I'm a big proponent of being positive and thinking about stuff. And so is Jim Carrey. And so Jim Carrey, when he was just breaking into acting, he's like, one day he went up to the Hollywood Hills and he said, one day I'm going to be a $20 million paid star, blah, blah, blah. And he wrote himself this personal check.
Didn't
And he
he
looked at it.
sitting in the shadow of the Hollywood
Yeah,
sign,
and he
sure
sat and he looked at it
that.
every single day, and he dated it in 1995. And on like within whatever of the date, he got signed for Batman and Robin or Batman Forever and got paid like an exorbitant amount of money.
So it was
it's kind of
10 million, but yeah, he got 10 million exactly for Batman and for
Yeah,
Batman Forever.
it's just such a cool story too, because it's like, oh, Jim Carrey.
Do you know what he did with that check?
What did he do?
He put it in his dad's coffin with him.
Oh, he put it in his dad's coffin. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Aw. I would have used
Wow.
hookers and blow personally. You know me.
Yeah,
You
there's nothing
guys-
wrong with that.
Sweetie, why are you
Your
saying
Frozen McNuggets has said it's good to hear your voice in the High Council.
Aw, hey, Frozen McNuggets. Well, you'll hear more of it later on. So I'm streaming tonight after the High Council.
By the way, folks, we hit over 1,000 people watching, so do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button and let me know that you like the High Council, the premier show of the Fandom Menace. We have we had our new flashy intro today, and we have all kinds of new subscribers, so welcome to the channel. If you found us from The Last of Us 2, we'll cover it a little later tonight, so thank you for joining us here. But I wanted to bring this up about this new Michael Keaton news, because I thought this was the most interesting part from the wrap. The plot will introduce general audiences to the idea of the multiverse, one of the core concept underpinnings of DC Comics. For the non-fanboy set, the multi-universe refers to a shifting number of alternate universes that coexist within a larger reality depicted in DC Comics. I think that's going to be probably the most... Look, Michael Keaton's going to sell this movie. Ezra Miller's a dick. Nobody gives a shit about that guy. He's just a joke. And I could play the fucking Flash. I'm like, Jeff, you're really big to be the Flash. And guess what? I'm a better Flash than this guy is. You know, CGI makes him fast. CGI can make me fast. But Michael Keaton will sell this movie to everybody. But I think the important concept is going to be set up. Now, this might... Let's just say for sure this is exactly what's going to happen with this movie. Let's play the alternate game. This is what's going to happen here. Doctor Strange is going to be doing the same thing for Marvel. It'll be interesting to compare who does it better, because I don't know who's directing this film, and Ezra Miller's a dick. But we do have
the guy who did it is directing this.
Andy Muschietti or something like that?
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay, cool. Then I'm on board, because that dude made a great movie. But then you have Sam Raimi and you have Benedict Cumberbatch and you have that MCU build. I think DC, if they do this right, they could have another Joker situation where they're as good as the Marvel alternative for that year. So you can compare Joker to Avengers Endgame, and some people say Joker's a better movie. I say Joker's a better movie.
Yeah, you're right. The problem with this movie here, though, is you have the choker in it. But sans Ezra Miller, bringing Batman in, bringing Michael Keaton into this, from what I'm hearing, is I've been hearing rumblings about the multiverse ever since the Snyder Cut thing was announced, because there is this division between Warner Brothers and AT&T that's public. It's not like it's a rumor or anything like that. There's been several people who spoke out about it, including several prominent like night talk show hosts and stuff like that on HBO and other places. So it's really well known. But I think this is kind of them trying to come to some kind of conclusion with the multiverse thing, to where they're like, yeah, we can have all of our cake and eat it too. And then I'm also hearing that, and if you listened to Andre's video earlier, that Michael Keaton's going to play like the Samuel Jackson role in this new universe. He's going to be the Nick Fury. So we'll see how that rolls. Cool, and it's supposed to set up a Batman Beyond movie, folks.
Oh,
that's
thank
kind
God.
of that's the rumor. That's the rumor. So there you go.
Because
So basically, it's everything we wanted as fans.
Except for Ezra Miller's still in it. But if they can
Yeah, but
find a way to get rid of him, then maybe we're good to
He
go.
might, I don't know. He might get into a fight with some 28-pound girl, and she might kill him. So who knows what's going to happen before then? The dude is.
I didn't like him before that. That's the problem. But I get you. Yeah.
Oh my God, you're so insensitive. He was showing off his battle stars from being a non-binary kid, and then he embraced a fan. Okay.
You want to fight? You want to fight?
What a wuss.
My biggest complaint with his appearance is in BVS when he had like the shitty mustache and he was wearing that armor like through the time or whatever. I was like, what are you like? What is this? When I first saw this, I'm like, this is the Flash. Now, this is coming from a guy who loves comic books, has read maybe a handful of Flash books, but even I was like, oh, this has got to suck for fans. I mean, this is our first introduction to the Flash on film. I was like, what is this?
A Crest commercial?
It'll be interesting if this is all a long game to tie everything from Justice League, BVS, and everything back together. It might work. It
might work, but they need to learn from their past mistakes and take their time with some of it, because that was their biggest flaw, I believe, when they began this universe, was they didn't take their time. They rushed into everything. They rushed into, this scene right here, which is from Flashpoint. They rushed into the death of Superman. They rushed into a lot of things that they needed to take their time with, character build, war build, world build, and then get to Justice League. That's how I see it.
Definitely. No, I'm with you. I agree with those statements. I think they're looking at this long term as like Marvel's really vulnerable. And everyone goes, guys, they're a big $1 billion company. How can they be vulnerable? Because they blew their load. There's nothing else to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
On if you can count on the Marvel movies coming out, how many of those are going to follow into The Last of Us 2, Black Panther, Captain Marvel, Star Wars movies, where it's all about the fucking agenda and they try to guilt you? That guy that's playing Shang-Chi already tried to pull this shit last week on Twitter. So, I mean, they're ramping up this stuff. This is nothing new. If Marvel, or if DC can just say, you like Michael Keaton as Batman? Here he is. I don't know what he does on Twitter, if he even has a Twitter. You know what's going to happen? He's going to come out. They're going to make the film. It's going to be fun for some people. Some people are going to hate it. Some people are going to love it. But at the end of the day, it's just going to be a film. It's not going to be turned into any political posturing. It's not going to be turned into any sort of agenda-driven thing, because, like I said countless times, I swear to God, you know what they're going to do with Shang-Chi is they're going to talk about how it's so important. It's like, oh, it's the first time we've had an Asian hero on camera. Who the fuck is Bruce Lee? Who the fuck is Jackie Chan? Or another myriad of great, fantastic, real martial artists. The Crow, yeah, Brandon Lee. How did I forget that one? My point is, they're going to try this crap, and it's going to be like, look, Inhumans is going to try that crap. No, excuse me, Eternals is going to try that crap. They're going to hear that with Shang-Chi. They're going to do it again with Captain Marvel, and their movies are going to become monotonous to support. They're not going to be fun. Oh my God, I can't believe they're making Batman Beyond and they're crossing multiverses. There's 4 Supermans and I like them all type of thing. It's going to be, let me be taught a lesson by Captain Marvel about why I'm a piece of trash from a Disney movie. That's all this shit is going to be. DC, take note. Just be fun. All right? Follow any of your Shazam, Aquaman, Joker, any of those. Just go with that. Just don't talk down.
All those woke tards over there in Marvel should become Twitch streamers, because that audience loves being talked down to. That's what they should do.
Well, anyhow,
they know how to treat their simps over on Twitch.
See, maybe I'm too nice to people on Twitch.
You got to talk down to them, Max.
Start calling them all ists and phobes.
Yeah, right.
You just don't like women if you don't give me money.
I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Twitter, and I'm on there, and it already has twit in the title. Twitch is another thing I'm not so sure I want to be a part of either.
Tom, if I was a woman, I'd be on Twitch talking down to every asshole that came.
You'd be a hell of a thought, man.
You're damn right I would.
We do have our other guest with us now in the back room here, Jeff.
Right.
If you want to bring Kamran on.
Hello,
Kamran. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be on. Sorry to take so long to get here. I had some other obligations, but I finally was able to make it.
No problem, sir. No problem. We're just talking about Batman at the moment, but I'm sure we'll move on to the other stuff here real soon. How are you doing tonight?
Can I add something on Batman? Because I heard some of this.
Absolutely.
Of course.
I'm going to add something on why I think Michael Keaton is the best Batman. It's my opinion. Of all the Batmans, and I enjoyed a lot of them, Michael Keaton, in my opinion, is the best Batman because he's the crazy one. You look at him, he looks like he's out of his mind. And that's the essence of Batman. Batman is mentally ill. He's a lunatic. And, there's that moment in the original Batman movie with Michael Keaton where he's confronting Joker as Bruce Wayne. And he's confronting and he says to him, "You want to get crazy? You want to get crazy?" And Joker,
you want to get nuts?
Yeah, you know, and Joker's like, this guy's out of his mind. And that's the essence of Batman, which everyone else is this like suave billionaire. That's not Batman.
Well,
I mean, Batman is a mentally ill guy who watched his parents get killed in front of him, and he's seriously disturbed. And Keaton captures him.
well, and
that's
also
why
when they
Tim
first
Burton. Oh, go ahead.
when they first hired Keaton, they said he's not going to be able to do it because he's a small guy. He's not as big as they thought Batman should be on screen. But that wasn't the angle that Tim Burton was coming at that movie. You're right; it was coming at it from a psychological point of view, and that's what sold it with Keaton. Was that when he was in that costume, he looked crazy enough to snap a criminal in half.
That's why Burton went that direction. At least that's what he said anyway. Yeah.
What?
Because he wanted Batman. He wanted somebody you believed was that crazy, and Michael Keaton was the craziest person he knew.
And there's that, and it was very clear in the text of the movie as well. There was that moment when Vicky Vale figures it out that Bruce is Batman. When her friend, I guess her coworker in the newspaper finds the article about Bruce's parents being killed. It's like, hey, your boyfriend's really messed up, and it clicks for her. Oh my God. And she walks out, right? It's always been about that, but at least that kind of Batman.
Knox,
Yeah, he's my personal favorite. Like we were saying at the beginning of the show, it comes full circle because 10 years ago, 12 years ago when The Dark Knight was out, people were shitting on Michael Keaton, and now it's come full circle, and it's cool to like him again. So It's nice that he's embraced Batman again. He's coming back as Batman. It's such a weird thing to say, like, oh, Michael Keaton's coming back to play Batman. It's something I never thought in a million years I'd ever be able to say. So,
all right. Well, gentlemen, I have to bow out. Thank you for having me on. Kamran, have a great time with the High Council. Thank you, Mecca. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jeff, for having me on.
Anytime, man. You're always welcome.
And as per always,
Even how can you do this? It's literally this moment. It's like Batman and Superman are crossing shifts. We're finally on a live stream together, and you take off.
well, I've got things I've got to get. Oh, well, okay, I'll stay. Okay.
Stick around as long as you like. And I actually want to say I'm very glad to finally be on a live stream with Mecca. I've been a huge fan of your channel for at least 8 months, almost 2 years now, and it's the first time I've been on a live stream with an actual woman. I've always been with it's nice to have like a female, someone of the XX persuasion.
I don't.
That's the first thing he asked. He's like, "This isn't anything to do with my answer, but is there going to be any women on the show? I'm so sick of all the sausage parties."
First off,
I'm like, Mecca should be there.
First off, Cameron, did you just assume my gender?
Stephen Walton's a thought and a half.
I'm a little bit of that jerk who kind of assumes what I see in front of me is your gender, and I'm sort of that old school asshole. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah. I mean, you tell me that's not what it is. I'll flow with it. I will flow with what you want me to call you, but I'm gonna kind of assume what I see.
So if I tuck my sack back and say, "Call me a lady," you will.
And then I will do it, and I'll be out of the room as fast as possible.
Cameron's an awesome guy, y'all.
Away we go.
So, Tom, where do you think we should take the show? Because you actually had a good list of stuff. Now we have Kamran involved. What do you think would be?
Oh wow. Well, did you want to jump on to the Naughty Dog business, or did you want to get into the Star Wars stuff?
Well, you know what, Kamran, you're our guest. What would you like to talk about on the
I'll be honest with you, I haven't been following this Naughty Dog thing at all, so I got nothing to say. I'm happy to sit here and watch you guys talk about it. But Star Wars, I have opinions.
Obviously, yeah.
Well, you know what? Then we're gonna jump into Star Wars talk, folks. This is why the High Council was formed, and we'll close out the show with Naughty Dog. I thought it was a really awesome Joel Schumacher Batman intro. Before we go, everyone on the panel, we'll start with you, Kamran, since you're our guest. Any final thoughts on Michael Keaton as Batman, or anything about DC in general over the last, year and a half, 2 years, something like that?
Well, I've stated my opinion on Michael Keaton. I'm excited to see if he does come back, and he's a superb actor. And with regard to DC, they've been fumbling, as we all know, for a while. I am hopeful now that we're going to be on a new track. I think they might have actually learned some lessons, and the very fact that they're talking about someone like Keaton, it suggests that they might just want to be trying to figure out what's worked in the past and try to make it work again. So I'm very hopeful that we have a positive future for these DC stories, and I'm very hopeful for Wonder Woman. I mean, we'll see what Wonder Woman is like. I love the first Wonder Woman. I'm excited by the trailers for the second one. Let's see where they go.
I completely forgot about Wonder Woman because I had a discussion with Jesse today. I'm like, oh yeah, Black Widow was supposed to come out, and we looked at each other and went, and that was the end of the conversation. I completely forgot.
Some more of the Wonder Woman merchandise got out on the shelves already. Well, it was supposed to anyhow, but they obviously didn't stop it. I seen the Funko Pops the other day.
Yeah, and the Dorito bags and
those have been out for a couple of months now.
Yeah.
Cameron, what do you think of that gold armor she wears? I think it's a weird look, but it could be the next, Baby Groot or whatever the hell people are just going to buy. I don't know. I think the armor's kind of hokey.
You look, the whole vibe of it is sort of like hokey 80s. I think they're going for that, right? And it'll be interesting to see what they do visually. Look, I have a huge crush on Gal Gadot. I have a huge. I mean, she can wear whatever she wants, and she can wear what she wants. And I think Mecca would agree with me on this. I think we're all on the same page on this, and I will watch her. Look, there's been leaks about the plot and some stuff, and the plot sounds a little Birds of Prey weird, So I'm gonna be hopeful that this they didn't go off. Patty Jenkins is a visionary director, but she still has to have a good script, and I'm just hopeful that they didn't go some wacky place with this script. But I'll pay my money and I'll see it, and I'll probably see it a second time if it doesn't work because I love Gal Gadot.
I think she's great too. I just want it to be a great movie. So, but we'll find out eventually. Tom, do you think movie theaters are ever going to open up again fully?
Oh yeah. There's already some starting to open. They're doing like some test running of things. I think Tenet's supposed to be the big movie come out first. So we'll see how that works. I haven't heard any like real statistics yet, but I've been hearing like just talks of like there's people going, geez, Bill and Ted might do better than everybody thought. Because the pent up, like people are going to want to go out and there might not be anything up against it for competition. So
they pushed that one up too. They pushed that to the 14th.
Right. Yeah. So like they were originally thinking, yeah, they'd be lucky to pull like 80, 90 to $100 million when it's said and done. Now I'm hearing rumors that they're talking 200, 300, maybe even 400 million for it. Like crazy. Yeah. Cause there's not going to be much else to compete with it either. So we'll see how it goes. And that first trailer seemed to resonate pretty good. For the most part, a lot of people seem to gravitate to it. So we'll see. Well, it'll be interesting to see. The only thing with Wonder Woman is we've heard the test screenings were piss poor.
Yeah.
So hopefully they fix it.
Yeah, it would suck if Wonder Woman was such a bad movie that turned people off to DC, because it's like, hey, we got these things we're announcing, and it seems like the energy is starting to ramp up. So I think DC is their own worst enemy. But if they can keep it together just for, 2 more years, they might be able to, I'm not going to say recapture what Marvel had completely. I mean, we're talking at 22 films, how many billions of dollars at the box office type of thing. But I mean, hey, a $1 billion film here and there is going to start building to that. Because I mean, in the beginning of the MCU, the first one was film number 6 was the Avengers, and that was the first $1 billion flick. And it took them Man of Steel, BVS, Suicide Squad, like 4 or 5? Like Aquaman was the 6th one or 5th one that made $1 billion. So, yay DC, come on, do it. That's all I can say.
Thank you for changing your avatar back, Tom. My genitals were getting confused.
That's why I do it.
So are we good on this topic? Is it cool to move on to Star Wars? Everybody got their?
I think we're good.
All right, cool. Well, Star Wars is a film directed by George. I'm just joking. Anyway, I've
heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of popular, but I'm not one of those people that buys into trends.
I made this movie. It's about droids.
Star Wars has been in a weird place, arguably since Disney bought it. I'd say since post Force Awakens, but it's never been just a fan disliking a Star Wars film. It's become embroiled in so much more. I mean, we turn it into, there's political slant to Star Wars. There's this infighting between creators. There's this battle between fans versus creators. It's just an ugly, vicious cycle, and it never ends. It's difficult to be a Star Wars fan in 2017 through now. It's been a difficult time. I mean, you're not getting great films. You're not getting good merchandise. I mean, hell, they just did a big reveal for all the new Star Wars toys yesterday. And with the exception of like an Empire Strikes Back playset, everything's a rehash, but everything's also from the original trilogy outside of the fan vote, and they voted for Commander Cody. So the sequel trilogy is an afterthought to current Star Wars, but the damage has already been done to the legacy. So Cameron, as a Star Wars fan, even though you kind of heard about the film, What are your overall thoughts on the Disney trilogy as a whole? Do you know, just quality wise, stuff like that? And then we'll just start with there. So, what are your thoughts on the trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very vocal about this. You know, I was a little disappointed with The Force Awakens. I thought it wasn't anything new, but I was willing to give it a shot. I thought Daisy Ridley did a great job. I thought John Boyega did a great job. So I was like, yeah, I'll stick around for this, right? It was the first movie in all of Star Wars that I did not see multiple times. The Force Awakens. I had gone to see. I even went to see the prequels, Episode 1, which I didn't really like that much. I saw it multiple times because I just loved the final lightsaber battle, the Duel of the Fates, and all that, and I was so invested in it emotionally. This one, I was like, all right, I watched it. I feel like it's a retread of A New Hope, whatever. But let's see what happens next. And then when I heard Rian Johnson had been hired for The Last Jedi, I was initially incredibly excited because I personally really liked Looper. I saw Looper a couple of times. I really thought it was an interesting film that I hadn't seen before in the time travel world, and I thought it was very well done. So I was like, oh, this guy's going to bring something new, and he did bring something new. He brought something new and terrible. I sat there in the theater, and I've said this before. The first moment I said, okay, what's up, was when they did the Yo Mama joke, right? And that's what, 2-3 minutes into the movie.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, it's just a bad joke, whatever. Star Wars sometimes has bad jokes, but whatever. And then it started going from there. And then the moment when Luke throws a lightsaber over his shoulder, my heart just sunk. I said, something is terribly wrong here. And I knew something was out of control. And by the end of the movie, by the final part of the movie, I was like, please, God, just let this end. I wanted to tear my eyes out. I mean, the movie went on for another hour more than it needed to. I felt like I was being tortured. And finally, when Broom Boy did his thing, I actually was so numb to the movie that I didn't catch that moment in the final scene when Broom Boy uses the Force to capture the broom, because I didn't give a damn about Broom Boy. I didn't even know why he was in the final moment, right? And then it fades to the stars, and I walked out of there just silent. I'd gone to see with a friend who was, my friend was very into like, yeah, whatever's new, I'm cool with it. It's like, this is great. I just said, and I went home that night and I couldn't sleep. I was up all night because I felt severely upset. I felt like something had stabbed my heart and something had hurt my childhood and my memories of these characters.
Yeah.
And there was a deeper thing, which I don't think I've really said before. I've gone on a couple of live streams recently, but it was something that I immediately identified. I've worked in Hollywood as a screenwriter for 19 years. I've worked a lot in TV. I've worked in at least 7 or 8 different writers' rooms. And what was keeping me up at night was the feeling that, oh my God, the very sort of woke propaganda that I've been fighting over the course of my career in different shows and rooms. I was like, guys, why are we taking the story this way? It doesn't make sense. And being shouted down and having to listen to these like fake leftist lectures from my fellow writers in the room. I mean, that was hard enough to deal with over the course of my career. But I said, oh my God, that garbage that I had been seeing infesting writers' rooms over the course of almost 2 decades has finally made it to the top. It's made it to the very top of modern media, Star Wars, and it has destroyed it. And I thought, this is it. This is the end of popular culture. And I knew what it was coming from. It was coming from this ideological, subversive storytelling that I have fought passionately in writers' rooms on TV shows for years. And I was like, well, I guess I didn't win any battle because this is where it's gotten to. And so that's what I'll say about that. So that's the whole thing is a nightmare. But the one thing that it birthed is the very fact here all of us are. I don't think any of us really would be people that got to know each other or be on live streams together had it not been for Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi. He created the Fandom Menace in response, right? And and he has created the resurgence of good storytelling, or at least the fight for good storytelling, because we'd had enough. That was the final straw, and here we are.
Well, I want to ask you a question since you brought up about working in the writers' room and stuff. Yeah. So now it's at the forefront of entertainment. Now it's infecting all of the stuff. You said popular culture in general. Prior to it, when it was just a little germ of an idea, how was it treated when people were what was it like when it was more pushed back against? When people just kind of brushed it off? Was it like, oh, it's just this funny little idea? And how do you think it got to the forefront so heavily so fast?
Well, in every writer's room that I've worked in, the very first one was on the remake of The Twilight Zone with Forrest Whitaker back in 2001, 2002 on the non-existent network UPN that is now part of the CW, right?
Yep.
And so that was my first break, and that was almost 20 years ago. And even in every writer's room, you have your standard. Most screenwriters are these loudmouth leftists who are these people living in nice houses, some of them living in mansions, right? Who are happy to talk about all this Marxist theory in the room, and then they go back to their very nice gated community, right, where it's not real. And so, I'm a working class guy. I'm Pakistani. I'm a Pakistani immigrant. I grew up in Brooklyn. So I don't have time for garbage. And I would always be the guy that would speak up and say, yeah, do we really believe that? And for the longest time, it was okay for me to be that sort of annoying person in the room that would say, yeah, I don't know, think the character actually believes that. The actual ideological change intensified when Trump was elected. I witnessed it with my own eyes. When Trump was elected, and those who follow my Twitter know, I'm a pretty conservative guy, but I have my issues with Trump, and I'm not a Trump supporter. But nonetheless, when he was elected, I knew that he was going to be elected. I saw the cultural shift that was coming. And the day he was elected, I was working at a TV show and walked into the office that day after he was elected, or won the election. People were crying with tears. I mean, actual tears in the office. Assistants were crying, and it was a mourning. And I tried to make a joke to try to lift people's spirits, and people just attacked me. Said, "You can't laugh about this. Do you understand what's happened here? America's turned into Nazi Germany." I was like, "I'm not sure it's gotten there, right?" But what I started noticing is that from that point on, now it's been 4 years of this, people began to become passionate crusaders inside of the room because everything became about, we have to change the narrative to fight Trump. Before it was just loudmouth limousine liberals saying what sounded cool in the echo chamber. Now it had become a crusade. And I was like, guys, I literally began to a point where I just kept my mouth shut after a while because you couldn't fight it, because it was the feeling you're going to be blacklisted if you start questioning some of the ideological stuff that's being put in there. And this is where, and it's gotten worse in 2020. I mean, this is the culmination of it.
So I'm going to ask you this, a long-term question. What do you think can be done, or do you think it's kind of a lost cause to try to balance the entertainment landscape? Because as you see, you talk about Rian Johnson creating the Fandom Menace through such a garbage piece of film. I mean, the thing is that this community and a lot of movements that don't even have names, or just people in general that are fed up with this crap, it keeps getting stronger and stronger by this constant shoving down your throat of these ideas that not everybody believes. And the worst part is like, because you don't agree with these people 100%, they, like Mecca says, you're an ist or a phobe or all these terrible things. And I bet you 90% of these people that are being called these terrible things aren't what these people are saying about them. They just have different views. So what I'm trying to get to you, or ask you in a roundabout way, is when can we kind of balance it out and fix it, return it back to normalcy, or is it lost?
We almost did. In fact, the beginning of 2020, I had seen the shift. And I knew Birds of Prey was going to be a disaster. And I knew it was going to fail. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was coming because the idea, this woke fake feminism, bad storytelling wrapped in fake feminism, had burned itself out twice before. It had burned itself out with Terminator. It had burned itself out with Charlie's Angels. And I said, well, Birds of Prey is already too late. People are already done with it. They've proven it twice. They don't want to watch this kind of stuff, and they don't want to hear this kind of preaching, in our popular, entertainment. And so, at that moment, January, February, I knew from my conversations with people in the industry that the system had changed. I was hearing that Lucasfilm, that there was already an aggressive effort to rein back things inside of Lucasfilm. The Jean Favreau had come in to try to really set things straight. I was already hearing that there was essentially a civil war inside of Lucasfilm, but that the people like us who just cared about good storytelling were getting the upper hand. And people in Hollywood, the marketing departments had seen, hey, look, we can't make money on this kind of crap, right? We got to give the market what it wants. So suddenly you started having a shift in my conversations in the industry where people said, we're just going to go back to giving the audience what it wants. The problem is then you had the virus, and then you had the lockdowns, and then you had the riots. Basically, in the last 3 or 4 months, everything that Hollywood had figured out, okay, we can't go to this woke storytelling. We got to get off some of the fake Me Too stuff that's been said, right? Innocent people being lambasted, all of that. And then suddenly they're like, oh my God, the mob has risen again. It's even crazier than it was 3 years ago. So we got to go back to it. And the thing is, now everyone in Hollywood knows this is not a profit-making model. But they're so terrified of being canceled and of having their careers ruined by a crazy tweet from some nobody, Jane Alexander 25734 on Twitter, right? Suddenly post something and your life is ruined. Everyone is so afraid. So now the industry knows that the Fandom Menace was correct. It knows that those of us who didn't like Birds of Prey, it's not because we don't like strong women. We love the earlier version of Harley Quinn, right? We love Margot Robbie. We wanted a good version of that story. And the newest Suicide Squad has a return to a more traditional Harley Quinn. So we're going to go through a period now through the election where we're just going to go back to sort of woke pretense. But now everyone's like, oh my God, we're going to lose money on this. But we don't want to lose our job. So what do we do? That's where we are.
Now, I got to ask, because speaking of the Fandom Menace and how this stuff works, I always notice, like, whenever we report on something, we'll get some counter narrative from somewhere in the access media. I noticed it was kind of funny. As soon as your interview with Jeremy was out there, we started hearing about the Rian Johnson trilogy again all of a sudden. Is there anything you'd like to say about that? And perhaps
I would love to believe I had that kind of influence. I don't believe I have that kind of
I
influence.
wouldn't be so sure, sir.
I would love to believe I've been
that interview blew up a lot of shit, man. That's why I was thinking. I'm wondering if that wasn't part of it. I mean, Mecca knows what I'm talking about, because every time we do a Star Wars or a Star Trek story, especially, the little access media guys get out there with some like counter take.
Well,
I
would say I've witnessed this. I have witnessed that whenever the Fandom Menace appears to be winning and the narrative starts changing, I've noticed Rian Johnson bots appear, like accounts that were set up a week ago. Have you seen this, Mecca?
Yeah. Same thing with Captain Marvel. Same thing with what else? The Raylos. Same thing with Star Trek Discovery. I'm getting people reporting my Twitter account, like my bio from Germany, who also, incidentally, in Germany reported the Star Trek, some video that I made about Star Trek that I said, hey, please share. You know how you do when you tweet out a video. Hey, please share. You know, all that stuff. So yeah, every time.
Real. I mean, I do believe that there is a Lucasfilm, whether it's internal or they contract it out, there is a aggressive sort of Kathleen Kennedy Lucasfilm propaganda machine on online media. I believe that because I've witnessed it, right? And I come for me.
It's marketing.
And, it's a marketing team, and and so that is very. I mean, literally think about it. After the Fandom Menace started asserting itself, after Solo failed, after the Rise of Skywalker basically just bumbled off into the distance, you had all these people at Lucasfilm who are Ms. Kennedy's sort of cultists who are essentially out of a job. They're just coming collecting paychecks and not doing anything while Jon Favreau runs around and with Dave Filoni trying to create a new Star Wars. And so they got a lot of time in their hands to hassle people online because they're not doing anything and they're bitter and they're resentful. And so you have that. And so, if my interview with Jeremy started something that's great, I do not believe for 1 second that there is a Rian Johnson trilogy. It's just not real. They're not that stupid. They know, at this point, they know Johnson is done. It's just these bots. It's just this marketing Kennedy team that comes in and tries to create drama. But I just don't think it has any effect anymore. It's an empty, it's not even an echo chamber. It's an empty chamber now.
Ooh. Right. And that's something I wanted to touch on too, because Gary was one of those who never really believed, there was two camps. And we've been reporting for years now that there's exactly that. There's a Lucas loyalist camp, and then there's the KK Cray.
That is what I've heard. There is a civil war. I've heard that for over 18 months. I've heard that right after The Last Jedi.
About that amount of time, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
And then you can see, I'm sure you've seen this recent roundtable deal with Kathleen Kennedy and a few of the other people and Jon Favreau.
And you shut her down, right? Yeah, I remember that.
So, this kind of all leads back to what we've been reporting for like the last year or so, is that when Bob Iger came out in that interview and said the buck stops with me now on Star Wars, he kind of came downstairs and said, all right, kids, party's over. Dad's in the house. It's time to get shit done. And he started bringing over all his Marvel boys.
Yeah, he did. Look, there's something else going on here. I don't have evidence of this. I'm going on intuition.
Right. All this is obviously speculation.
Well, there's something. No, I know there's no speculation that there's a civil war. I've heard that from friends.
Right, or allegedly, I guess we have to say. But you've heard it.
There's something else. There's something else happening. Bob Iger keeps seeming to move towards the consumer base, which is us, and moving back. And there's clearly some kind of political leverage Miss Kennedy has, and I'll just leave it at that. She, everyone in Hollywood has dirt on each other. That's how it works, right? And so there's some kind of political leverage she's got on him. So every time he tries to really clamp it down, because it's not just that she is this powerful woman in position and using the fact that she's a woman to hold on. There's something else, in my opinion, there. I have no evidence of it. I'm just going off of intuition of the behavior. I do think that this recent, do you guys remember a few weeks ago, there was feels like few years ago. There was that whole thing where I think the Hollywood Reporter announced that there was going to be this all-female Star Wars show, right?
Yeah, that was like
Headline, yeah.
And that was done. That wasn't an official press release from Disney. And from what I've heard from my friends in the industry, that wasn't authorized by Iger. And what I've heard is he didn't even know about this. That he didn't know that they were going to go out with this thing. He didn't even know they were talking about something like this because he thought he had quashed this kind of stuff already. He thought it was over. And from what I've heard from friends is that Iger got upset. Iger got upset, and that he's like, this is actual insubordination. Whatever political leverage Ms. Kennedy may have inside the Disney system that Iger is afraid of confronting, this is embarrassing because from what I've heard, the people inside Disney were like, I never heard of this thing. Bob, you heard of this thing? I mean, that's going against the boss, and that's a real Hail Mary aggressive move there, And I think that the situation inside Lucasfilm has become even more poisonous since then because I think Iger's like, yeah, you know what? You can't actually do that to me. You can't humiliate me in front of the employees, like going around me like that. So it's a pretty tense situation there, from what I've heard.
Well, I think it's interesting that you brought up about like Hollywood realizes this does not make money because I've racked my brain. All of us here in the Fandom Menace, just fans in general, we're like, why does this happen? Because it's fail after fail. Even if you look at Ghostbusters is like the progenitor of what people call the SJW movie movement. That didn't perform. That was, even Dan Aykroyd said, "Hold, Paul Feig won't be back on the studio." It very rarely makes big money for these studios. I mean, Birds of Prey this year was kind of a wet fart. And I wonder if Hollywood was so close on the brink of getting to where they understood that this stuff didn't make money and they were going to go back to this fan service thing like a DC sounds like with AT&T. What are they? Do you think they're going to get more extreme in these views so they don't scare this boogeyman that has no power over them truly? Or do you think it's going to tank the system in a way where they try it, they're like, we got to appease these people, we need to make money, they get to this weird middle ground and it doesn't work, and then they just lose both sides?
I think what they're trying to do is just keep talking in the media and saying all the right things and putting out the black rectangle for Black Lives Matter, all the PR stuff, and hoping to get through this election cycle, because everything that is happening right now is about the madness around the election. And like I said, the ideological war in Hollywood about the election. And so they just want to get through this election, and they're all hoping Biden wins because, then they can just stop the ideological war against Trump and start making money, right? That's what they're all hoping. And like I said, I'm not a Trump supporter. I personally believe that he's going to win right now. I think he's probably going to win on a landslide.
Probably, yeah.
I think that's done. And so no one in Hollywood believes me. They all think I'm delusional. I'm like, man, when you got the country burning down, Biden ain't it. Then Biden kneeling down with an African stole around him is not the image that's going to bring this country to believe he's going to be able to bring order to the society. And that's where we are. But Hollywood doesn't believe me.
Well, I just am really happy because I missed out on the Jeremy interview. I don't know why, but I'll go back and check it out. But I just find hearing this gives me a little bit of hope because I feel like a lot of us are just yelling into this void and nobody, like the fans are yelling with us, but they're just, the people, the elite Hollywood, whatever you want to call them, have their noses upturned. And I do forget that people that create a lot of content, the entertainment that we like, there are regular sensible people. Yeah. Then there are these crazy extremists, and it just seems like right now the squeaky wheel's getting that oil. And so do you personally think, as a Star Wars fan, that it's just kind of too late? Is that brand's been tanked? Do you think Disney's going to eventually look at it and go, we'll move on to something else? Or do you think they're going to try to save it because of how much money they put into it?
I think they're going to try the latter, and I think Jon Favreau is what they brought in. I mean, you've heard Doomcock with his sources claiming that they may do the alternative universe route to just eliminate the entire trilogy. If they did that, that was something they're going to have to wait until Kathleen Kennedy is officially out, which is the end of this year. I think that is the proper way to sayonara that whole trilogy and say it was another universe. Good luck. It's not official Star Wars anymore. I do think they're going to try to make their money back because they are in the hole. They invested over $4 billion in it. And, you have all these morons on Twitter arguing, hey, they made their money back. Look how much money. It's like, no, they don't keep all the money from the movie sales. They don't keep all the money from the toy sales. And guess what? That $4 billion is judged by the accountants based on what we call amortization, which is, let's say if I took $4 billion and I just put it in my savings account and earn like a couple % interest within 10, 20 years, that's going to be $7 billion, right? And so they got to keep increasing their revenue to cover what it would have been had they just done nothing with the money except earn interest. And they're not close to that. I mean, they are. My understanding is they're at least a few $1 billion still under the hole from the amortization level that they were supposed to be at by now, right? And so they're in desperation, and they're going to try. And the stupid things they did with the parks, the park, which is not a Star Wars park, it has nothing that we recognize as Star Wars in it, except the Falcon is there. All of this stuff just hurt their revenue streams, and now the virus is added to it. But I think they're going to try for at least another year, and Mandalorian gave them some hope, and Favreau is giving them hope. I have said for some time that I ultimately believe George Lucas will buy back Star Wars. People have said I'm crazy, but it happened with Power Rangers. Haim Saban, who is the originator of the Power Rangers franchise, Saban sold Power Rangers to Disney as part of an overall, he sold a lot of properties, but he saw an overall deal of $3 billion. And Disney mismanaged the Power Rangers franchise for a decade. And 10 years later, when there was no value to it anymore to them, they sold it back to Haim Saban for $100 million. And Power Rangers is out there again. So Saban did a pretty good deal. I mean, he made a $2.9 billion profit off of that, right? And Lucas is at least as smart as Haim Saban, right? And so, Lucas may have sold it for $4 billion. I think if we don't get Star Wars doesn't start approaching amortization, break even in the next 2 years, if I were a smart accountant, if I was the board member and Iger's left, I'd be like, why don't we just sell this back to George for $1 billion and cover our losses and be out, right? And I would do that. George is an elderly man. Will he live long enough to pull that off? I don't know, but I would love to see it.
Oh, I'd love that too. And I'm glad that somebody else is talking about the finances of the Disney Star Wars movies, because we looked at a video. We did a video the other week, maybe about a month ago, where we were looking at the Rise of Skywalker box office was $275 million. And everyone's like, well, it made $1 billion and change. But you have to look at the marketing, the other costs. We still have the rumored reshoots and all these. Because under Kathleen Kennedy, there hasn't, with the exception of the first Star Wars movie from the Force Awakens, there hasn't been like the smoothest productions. We get into the Solo stuff. Because look, if we go back to the Last Jedi, we know from the documentary on the Blu-ray that Rian Johnson pretty much first drafted it, and that's the movie, and it's terrible. But then we go Solo reshoots. I mean, there was a rumor that was 80% done. That
Rogue One reshoots too.
Rogue One reshoots were the first.
So both of those are twice their budget.
Got rid of Gareth Edwards on that too. Remember?
Oh,
yeah, because they brought in who was the last guy that finished it?
The guy they brought on to do the Cassian Andor series, and I can't think of his name now.
Yeah, folks in the chat, if you remember it, help us out. But I mean, even we get to the Rise of Skywalker, which barely crossed $1 billion, I think it's got to be an embarrassment too, because we brought up Joker at the beginning of the show when we were talking about DC's films. Joker cost $55 million. Even if you doubled it, you get $110 million. The movie made more than Star Wars. It's really rare that you get a film so small do so much. Or it's rare that you have a Star Wars movie underperform. I guess you can call it underperforming because it's been a consistent downward trend of all of their.
Joker could possibly be the most profitable film of all time when it's all said and done. I'm not kidding. Like you're at this point now. Yeah.
Well, I actually want to say something about projections. I saw this. I wish I had the link to it because I don't like making claims and I'll be able to back them up. But I saw this article. It might have been on Forbes some years back. But it was something to the early days of The Last Jedi when my mind was really like, what the hell is happening here? I found this projection by a financial analyst that had made a projection right in 2012 when Disney had bought Lucasfilm. And he had projected how the announced trilogy would fare based on his methodology, his mathematics. And so he predicted that the first of the trilogies, and he predicted this back in 2012, the first of the trilogy would make $2 billion. And he was right. It was looking almost down to the dollar, right? And then he predicted that the second one would make $2.5 billion, and the third one would make $3 billion. So we saw what happened. $2 billion or $2.1 billion, $1.2 billion, whatever billion, right? And so that's not the trend. And his mathematics 4 years in advance of the release of the first movie had proven accurate as to how the first one would do. And it's because Mr. Johnson's choices, it went the wrong direction. It should have gone to $3 billion. There's no reason.
Oh, you're 100% right. Because going by the trajectory of the Marvel Universe, The Last Jedi, if it would have been good, would have done 2.5. And if it would have been good and led people to the point where they need to see that third film, there's your $3 billion right there.
Well, remember with all the ticket sales, like the Atom tickets stories, where we would always get, "Oh, Endgame is like the biggest, pre-sale of all time," and then we would get the same thing with, "Oh, Rise of Skywalker is like the biggest thing of all time that's selling so much on Atom tickets, this little site that nobody's ever heard of." I was using that as an example when I made videos about this, saying, yes, they should be making more money, though. These should be gaining. These should be earning. Why aren't they earning? Oh, because they suck and they're losing fans each time. They're not gaining. This is not how franchises gain momentum. This is how you kill them.
Well, Cameron, let me ask you a question. In your opinion, do you think Disney was complacent with some of Star Wars performances because they also own Marvel, which is blowing it out of the water, and they look at like it's more like, hey, we have two kids, one's a huge successful doctor, the other one's kind of a screw up, but he's still doing okay. You think they look at it from that standpoint and go, we can handle a few losses with Star Wars. We just own it. We'll make all the money in the back end with merchandising and other stuff.
I actually don't think they think that way. I think that greed is a very powerful force in Hollywood. They bought this thinking that this is going to make them more money than Avengers. That was their goal, right? Their goal was to dominate global storytelling with Star Wars. And I think that was Iger's goal for his legacy. And the complacency that you reference, in my opinion, came in because of the initial success of The Force Awakens. $2 billion, like I said, it's what people hoped, and it was the projections, and it worked. And and it did not tear apart the fan base. There might have been a few people grumbling, but it basically was well received. And so I think Iger at that point said, everything's fine. I'm just gonna sit back on my laurels, do speeches, and Ms. Kennedy set up and look, trust me, I know what I'm doing, right? And then, unfortunately, Mr. Iger stepped back and let Kathleen Kennedy work with Last Jedi, what she wanted to do with Rian Johnson, who became her yes man or eager, apprentice. And from what I've heard from friends, I wasn't in the meeting, but what I've heard from friends is that that the initial cut that Iger saw, he's like, "What is this? It's not what I expected," right? And that he was aware that this isn't the feeling of the kinds of movies that he thought they were making. But again, Ms. Kennedy was able to protect herself. So you got to trust me. I just did $2 billion. This guy is a visionary. And for whatever reason, Rian Johnson is beloved within the structure of Hollywood. The power system. He's the golden boy. I don't know why. I like Looper, but he became the golden boy. And now everyone is in the power structure is invested in at least supporting him publicly. And it was much more intense at the time. So they went along with it. But I do believe that they knew something bad was coming, because from what I understand, and Mecca, you might have reported on this if I remember, from what I understand, or maybe our friends at World Class Bullshit, we all did, but if you recall, Disney put all those rules on the theaters that required them to keep The Last Jedi in, right?
Yep, that was me, sure.
More of their percentage than they normally would have, 60-70%, and they did that knowing they had the leverage to do it, but also because I think they think this thing is going to be front-loaded. People are not going to like it. Let's take our money now and force them to do it. I think they knew they had a disaster, and they were just hoping that it wouldn't be as big a disaster as it turned out to be.
Yeah, I remember this story because I was one of those people, like, I hated The Force Awakens, so I was kind of hyper aware to everything. And little stories like this would come out, and people were like, "Oh, you're crazy, you're reading into it." But I've always been of that mind that they're doing this because they knew, like, you had X amount of time with all this goodwill, and you're about to kill Luke Skywalker, and you're about to piss off a lot of people. It's not even just angry fans on the internet. All those movie tickets are people that have a connection to Star Wars, and you rip away the thing that connects them to Star Wars, and they go away from it.
Yes, as I'm learning, is one of the complaints about The Last of Us 2. I've been reading more about the plot, and like, they promised the sequel for this main character from the first one, and they just fucking kill him in the very beginning of the game.
Yeah,
that's why everybody's been calling it The Last Jedi of Us 2.
Yeah,
you can see that game was in development for some time, so it was still infected by this. It was the birds of prey phenomenon, where something is so deeply into the process that they haven't figured out yet that this is the wrong journey, right? And so I think by the time they released it, they knew they were in trouble, but there's nothing they can do. That's the release schedule.
Well, Birds of Prey was just a clusterfuck inside of a shitstorm.
It was a bad idea. Kathy Ann went to the investor board or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, and it's going to tackle Trump and feminism and all this
right
stuff."
There, exactly what you just said.
In the room.
They had at least going for them prior to that interview getting out that I had enough people arguing with me, "Oh, the movie's not anti-male." The movie's not this, the movie's not that. And then the proof is in the pudding when that interview came out right there. It's like there was a clear agenda here, folks. It's more of, and this is what's sad about what's going on right now is we were on this trajectory to get past this, like Kamran was saying.
Yeah.
Like there was people inside that were saying, look, yeah, there's this large group of people out there or whatever that are, you know, in this woke wave and blah, 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 blah. And most of them are in Hollywood, or majority of them are in Hollywood, however you want to look at it. The other side of it is like you said, there's people that want to get past this. They're just trying to stay under the radar. But you also have money men involved, something we don't have in comic books anymore. That's why I think that's dead, is because you don't have the investors, you don't have the big money men hovering over them going, where's my money? You promised me money. I don't have no money. And you're right. Star Wars should have been bigger than Marvel.
Yeah.
Pixar,
The money men
Marvel.
are the money men in the people that are major investors in Disney who hold the stock. We're talking about Wall Street, you know, investment fund, hedge fund owners. These people don't give a damn about Trump. They don't give a damn about politics. They don't give a damn about your ideology. They want to make money. And they've got, you know, several billion dollar fund that they got to manage. So these are ruthless people. They don't have time for garbage.
See, that's what I was saying recently on this whole wave of all these celebrities getting canceled, and then they take all this time to apologize or make these videos, or put their little, you know, picture on their Twitter profile, like the Tina Fey stuff that just dropped this afternoon. I'm like, okay, are you doing this just now to get some publicity? Because do you really care? Because you did this like 5 years ago, right? Where they have characters basically, Jane, oh god, I can never say her last name. She portrays she does the whole gender and race swap in full makeup and everything, and now Tina Fey's like, oh no, we need to pull that. We need to pull 30 Rock, and now with Jimmy Kimmel apologizing for portraying LeBron, or who was it? It wasn't LeBron.
Karl Malone. Don't even get me started on Jimmy Kimmel, Mecca. Last week on our podcast, we ripped him up. I fucking hate that guy with a passion.
Yeah.
I'm glad that people were like, hey, he's the thing is I hate about him is he's a hypocrite. He wants to be the moral superior on all this shit, and now he gets called out, and it's beautiful because you are just as shitty as everybody that you say is trash and needs to be canceled.
Exactly. And it's like, what are you doing this now for? You clearly don't care about this. If you did, you wouldn't have done this in the first place. We've known that this was bad since, 100 years right now already, pretty much since like the 20s. People were calling this stuff out then. So what are you doing this for? You're not doing this because you actually give a crap.
No, I know. It's everybody's looking for something to cancel somebody in the past. And the funny thing is these people that are doing it, don't tell me they're fucking perfect. Don't tell me they've never done or said anything bad.
No. Look, now I got to give my example, which is
Exactly.
I've been working in this industry for almost 20 years now. It'll be April of next year is 20 years. And since I joined the Writers Guild and started working in television and all that. And one of the reasons that I'm in many ways very conservative is dealing with my colleagues in Hollywood who are all loudmouth, like not even liberal. We're talking about, Maoist, Marxist stuff coming out of their mouths. And they're all hypocrites, and even worse, they're very racist. Look, I'm a brown Pakistani practicing Muslim guy, right? I don't really fit into their, thing of what is the Hollywood norm. And because especially a Pakistani Muslim guy is not at all common in this town, people don't know how to hide their racism. They'll always have the African-American assistant that they'll pretend to not be racist towards. With me, because I don't fit into their paradigm, people will just let it all out. They'll say the most obnoxious things. They'll insult my religion to my face. They will say stupid things. And they can't stop it. It's almost like my presence there triggers that and reveals their true face. I have seen so much racism, blatant racism, bigotry coming out of the mouths of all these people that are, you got to vote for Hillary. I voted twice for Obama. It's like, what was that movie? Get Out. It's like the parents in Get Out. We voted for Obama, but now we're going to take these black people and do these experiments on them, right? That's Hollywood. And that's one of the reasons that I have become so conservative in my time in Hollywood, because I've dealt with this hypocrisy and these false faces, and I've had enough of it.
Well, look at what they did with Star Trek, with Picard, with the character of Raffi. They've got a woman of undetermined ethnicity. I believe the actress is Dominican or Puerto Rican or something. My apologies on that one. They're portraying her as a single mother in a trailer, resentful that Picard is in a big chateau with his vineyard. Meanwhile, she's addicted to space hallucinogens, space weed, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, what? Did you?
The drug doc Caribbean chick. That's an archetype, right? Whatever.
Which just doesn't make any sense because in the time period that this is supposed to be, there
That
is
doesn't even exist.
there's
Yeah.
like no real class in that sense to where she would just live with everybody else. She's living out there by choice, evidently. So a lot of the things she's blaming Picard for are her choice. And there's even like medical stuff to where her addictions could be fixed.
Yeah,
Like that's the whole thing. Star Trek is so far past all that
problem
bullshit.
with Star Trek is that it was really hard to put this fake woke ideology in because the show was always woke. Gene Roddenberry was ahead of his time.
And it wasn't even so much woke, like Andre says, it was always humanist. It was so far beyond the wokeness. Like,
It was, and then you come in like somebody like me who's a bisexual woman who, I'll drop it if I have to. I'll drop the card if I have to. And they hate when I call them out on stuff. They hate me so much on there. They send their little hate mobs to attack me. They do whatever they can to call me out on this stuff because they know that I should be part of their little, we are Starfleet.
You're a traitor.
Pride symbol club, and I'm not, and they hate that.
Oh man, that's Margaret. I feel the same. That's one thing. And actually, it was when you were talking, Cameron, about your religion, all that earlier. I was like, you and I should get together and talk about this stuff. Because by the way, hi, I'm Jesse. I don't know if you. My channel's Mindless Entertainment. Jeff and I met through YouTube, and now we live together. So
you're the one with the incredible hair, and I follow you.
Oh, thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much. But I just want to say I'm Jewish, and nobody knows that because Meg Random talks about getting people don't realize she's bi until she says it something.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen me. I got the short blonde hair, the blue eyes. It's an Ashkenazim look, which is actually a very traditionally Jewish look. But people don't think about that. They see light, fair skin, blue eyes, and they feel comfortable saying all sorts of stuff.
Because they think you're Eva Braun. That's what they think.
Right? Exactly. But we should get together and just and compare notes.
Because I've loved your videos. Like for me, this is like being around. Like I'm like on Celebrity Family Feud right now. These all these people that I watch. So Jesse, I've been watching.
And here's Jesse Milestone.
Jesse, I discovered you after The Last Jedi because I loved your impassioned, crazy rants, and you'd be spitting and screaming at the screen, which is what I felt. So. Bring me onto your channel sometime.
Thank you, dude. Well, yeah, definitely. Let's get together. You're in LA, yeah?
I'm in LA. I mean, and I'm actually not afraid to go out. And I've gone out now. The restaurants are open. I go to the restaurants. There's nobody there.
Oh yeah, right. There's no. It's great. Yeah, let's get coffee sometime. We'll shoot the shit. That'd be so fun.
Yeah,
I'm so down. Awesome. Well, it's great to meet you. I might be popping out a little bit doing some stuff, but it was great to meet you. Yeah, well,
thank you, Ryan Johnson. You brought us all together. Thank you.
Right.
Is he here too?
In spirit.
I found myself on a writer. I signed a petition last year, and I discovered Ryan Johnson had also signed the petition. It was. And my name was on there. And it was like it was a lot of it was basically some of you may know there's a dispute right now where the Writers Guild of America ordered all of us to fire our agents over economic dispute last year. They basically said if you don't do it, you're out of the guild. You can't work in the industry. So I had to let go of my agents, and it wasn't something I wanted to do. And a lot of us wrote a letter to the Writers Guild, a public letter stating that this is the wrong way to do it. You can't just make us fire our agents for your agenda. And when I looked at who signed the letter, it was Ryan Johnson, it was David Benioff, it was all the guys from Game of Thrones. I was like, and there's Kamran Pasha. I was like, okay, I'm on the same list.
Like, I'm in good company now. Damn. Well, not Ryan Johnson, but some maybe not such good company after all. But I hear you. That's how we had that with I'm in SAG, and my agent is not franchise tag. That was a whole story. You'd probably be interested in it because it's a very classic. This is what happens to people in Hollywood who don't look the way you're supposed to look. But yeah, so she's now not my agent because that would be a violation of SAG's agreements. She is my manager because managers don't have to be a franchise by SAG. So
I'm glad I live here, but I'm not
in this
system.
Nonsense.
I would rather deal with all the YouTube hurdles than oh my god, these Hollywood hurdles.
Politicking. This is terrible. You might as well just run for president at this point. You'll get more out of it at the end. Shit.
Everyone will know my business.
Security, private security.
Well, I'm just hoping. Look, I want this election to be over with. Whoever the hell wins, just wins because everything that's happening in the world is because of this damn election. Everything that's happening, locking down our country. is primarily, in my view, a political move by various people to achieve certain agendas. And I'm just so tired of all of this. I'm tired of what's happening to our entertainment. I'm tired of what's happening to us in our day-to-day lives. And it's all about this election. I just want this goddamn thing to be over with.
Here, here.
I'm ready. I just think 2021 is a shit show, so we can just move to, or 2020 is a shit show. Let's move to 2021. Forget anything.
You say that, and then we get all kinds of crazy shit coming.
What's Godzilla?
Aliens land at least.
Godzilla and Jaws fight each other for domination of the world.
Well,
I vote Godzilla.
you got Godzilla. I got Godzilla too because Jaws is a shark. I mean, Godzilla's fingernail is
yeah,
bigger.
but Jaws ended up growing arms and legs, so we're fucked.
Did any of you guys watch The Meg? I love The Meg.
I'm just making
Meg,
shit
yeah.
up. I couldn't think of nothing else.
I have a friend of mine who's a very famous producer, like Oscar-nominated guy, and I told him to watch The Meg, and he's like, I'm not gonna watch this crap. Then he watched The Meg, and now he's watched it 5 times. He texts every time.
That's fun.
He texted me this weekend. The Meg was on somewhere, and he's watching it. It's an obsessively bad movie. It's great.
I used to have a really bad phobia of sharks. I was like, I don't want to watch anything with sharks in it because as a kid I saw Jaws: The Revenge, which is a terrible movie, but I had never seen a movie where somebody got ripped up by a shark. So then I would keep catching these movies as a kid. I'm like, oh no. But now I'm past it. We watch Jaws. It's a normal thing. I'll check out The Meg. We actually watched Crawl. Have you seen that one yet about the alligators?
No, I should.
No, I was looking at that. Wasn't that who did that? Was that Sam? That wasn't Sam Raimi, was it?
No, he produced it though.
He produced it. Okay.
Yeah, I watched it. I think it was on Netflix or Amazon over the weekend. It's a free streaming one if you have the services, but it was surprisingly good because Barry Pepper is a good actor. So outside of what is it?
My favorite movie. Remember the year Avatar came out? I thought Avatar was fine. I saw it once. That year, I saw Piranha 3D 4 times.
Yes!
I love Piranha 3D. It's a great movie.
Off air, I'll tell you one of my reactions to the movie because I don't want to like a sound clip of it. You'll get a chuckle out of it. It's funny, but we saw that movie when it first came out, and you want to talk about a disappointment? Is the sequel Piranha 3 Double D?
Oh yeah, it was bad.
We rented it.
Brilliant schlocky movie and make it a bad schlocky movie.
Yeah, we were so pumped because me and my buddy we rented it on on-demand pay-per-view. We're like, we're gonna get together, we're gonna get some food, we're gonna watch it. The first one was great, and we sat there and we're just like, what is this shit? It was like not a Last Jedi reaction, but very, very disappointed. So. Those kind of fun movies need to make a comeback. I'm wondering, like I've said, I want to ask you this question because I've said this to Tom and Mecca many times. Because Hollywood, we're getting these bigger movies that cost more money. Sometimes you get less returns. I think the next big trend, if they can get, you have these companies that buy all the rights up, like ridiculous crossovers. We're talking like Tom jokingly said, Godzilla versus Jaws. Nothing like that, but like crazy crossovers. I think might be the next big films internationally because you have to have your foreign markets, your international X, Y, and Z, and I don't think it'll offend anyone. Do you think that's going to be where they take it, or do you think there's something else big?
Zombie shark is the next big thing.
What I think is going to happen.
You can't kill it.
You can't
Vampire shark?
Can I be the vampire zombie shark?
Sure, you can.
And you made it a vampire too. You got to save that for the fucking sequel, Jesse.
I'm sure they already have it on Sci-Fi, right?
Probably. It's probably already a thing. I wouldn't be
Someone on
surprised.
chat, Fatty is their name, proposed Kramer versus Godzilla. I would watch that.
Isn't that a joke?
I would
Fucking,
watch that.
I've seen that somewhere before. But no, it's...
but to answer your earlier thing, I actually think you hit a pivotal thing, which is that they're going to, especially because the market is now screwed, right? Production is screwed. The theaters are screwed. They're going to have to scale back the economics of filmmaking for a while, and so they're going to have to go back to things that can be produced at a more reasonable budget. And I think some of these movies that have been coming out, these horror movies that have been coming out from Blumhouse Blumhouse is going to become one of the dominant players in the next decade, in my opinion, because they've mastered how to make good, interesting movies at a budget. Now, I went in, and some people attacked this movie because the marketing of it was woke. But The Invisible Man, I love that movie. It scared the living daylights out of me. And it's made for a small budget, and it's one of the most terrifying movies I've seen in recent years because it's such brilliant suspense. And it really wasn't a woke feminist propaganda thing, even though the marketing was that. And so I think Blumhouse is going to become the model for a lot of filmmaking moving forward, which will be a good thing. I think we're going to get better stories because they can't just keep throwing money. They don't have the money to throw at anymore.
That's cute. You think Hollywood won't spend less money?
Well, I'm
I'm telling you they're broke.
I know they're broke, but the thing is they had the same problem in the 80s, and they had the Friday the 13th and the Nightmare on Elm Street, which is what Blumhouse used to be. New Line Cinema used to be Blumhouse, but then New Line Cinema got bought up by Warner Brothers after they made Lord of the Rings, so go figure. I don't see Hollywood making a big change right away, but again, it's going to be interesting to see how the theaters go, because I see them scaling back on a lot of things, but they'll still do the Avengers type movies, and they'll still do things like that. And if there's no theaters, that's the part that scares me, is how much we're going to have to pay to watch those movies at home.
Well, Kamran, I wanted to ask you, like Tom brought up the Avengers stuff. Do you think, let's say we do have this shift to the smaller picture, and that becomes more of a popular thing, like the Blumhouse? What is it? Blumhouse is what, $5 to $10 million per film, something like that?
About that much, yeah.
How do you think that's going to affect a bigger company like Disney, where let's just say the public consciousness goes to smaller, like in the 70s, pre-Star Wars, we had, the French Connection and smaller pictures and quotations that were, the popular trend. How do you think Disney's going to handle that? Because we've seen them go from the powerhouse when Walt was alive. They struggled for a while, decades actually, until you get to the Little Mermaid and you have that big resurgence. Do you think that they'll be able to, because of the money they have, that they can weather whatever change? Or do you think you'll see a giant fall, some of these, multinational corporations that buy into the film industry fall?
I think it's going to be the latter. I think they're going to try their best to try to get through what's happened. But I could never have imagined it before. I had Disney stock and I sold it last year. Probably got ahead of all of this. But Disney, I think, is in a seriously disastrous situation. I think that the economics of this virus and the lockdown have hit it in a way that has not hit other multimedia conglomerates, because it shut down their parks, it shut down their entire cruise line. I mean, they're in serious economic trouble. It is really possible that Disney could get bought out in the next couple of years. I think they might collapse as a company, and I don't think anyone saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. I do think that we're going to have these major conglomerates start contracting and selling off parts and pieces until they become zombie companies and are bought up. And that is how we're going to see the rise of these smaller, it'll be a new wave of smaller production entities and smaller financing vehicles that are going to generate this kind of new storytelling. I think that's just, it's like you breathe in and breathe out in yoga, right? I'm in LA, so it's all yoga. So, we had the process of expansion, breathing out, and now we're having the process of contraction, breathing in. I don't think there's any way to stop it now.
I feel bad for the people that don't make the $20 million a picture. Jesse's got a lot of friends that are in film production and stuff like that. So if I see the trend, do you think that those gigs are going to pay less, or are they union protected? Because I'm not involved with any of this. I just moved out here for other reasons.
I think, and I'm a member of a union, and I've been very public with my disagreements with my union. I think unions are in very, very big trouble. I think over the course of the next year to 2 years, there's going to essentially be a large amount of people leaving the union system altogether. We have what is called financial core, where people can be, they're not become non-paying members, or how should I say, they become dues-paying non-members of a union, where the Supreme Court basically allowed people to be able to leave unions and still get their protection. And I think that that's going to happen. I think unions, because many of them, what's happening right now is they're trying to put up all these new rules for how to film in the post-COVID world. And as I was just talking to a friend of mine who has a TV show on the air right now, he's an executive producer on a TV show that's on the air right now, and they just got off the phone with a studio where the studio laid out all the rules that the unions had put for how they can film. And they said, well, we can't actually do anything. We can't do a love scene because you got to keep everybody this much distance. We can't actually film anything because we can't have this many people inside the room, and we can't actually make a movie or a TV show. It's not actually possible. And because the rules that the unions are putting in are so stringent in this COVID world, that people are actually just going to start rebelling against the unions in order to just pay their rent. And I think that day is coming. So I think we're going to see the end of union power in Hollywood in the next 2 years.
Ooh. Part of I always want the best for people, but I'm very interested to see that scenario play out in reality, because people talk about paradigm shifts and stuff. It's going to be very interesting to watch just go back to an era where everything is, I don't know how to verbalize it, but what I'm trying to say is, like, it's less behemoths behind the scenes and more, it's just smaller things. It'd be interesting to see how Hollywood operates on a smaller scale, because People have bought into the excess for decades, and they, what's the old phrase, Tom? Your mouth writes checks your ass can't catch cash. So it's going to be a thing moving forward. It's like, hey, we're so into this, and now the whole system collapses. There's a lot of Schadenfreude on my end. I don't want to come off as, I don't want anybody to, lose out. That's like, Jesse's types of friends are working in the industry, just trying to make it. But I don't care if Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are like screwed out of jobs. I don't care. What do they actually contribute anymore? I don't care if these big wigs go down in Hollywood, because it's like, you're not even producing anything good anymore. So what do they offer? They're just a name at this point.
Yeah, that's
on that. I actually saw. It's not for me to tell you how to do your super chats, but I noticed a super chat from Action Com that I think is worthy of answering, which is actually building on this idea. If you want to take a look at that, Married with Child writer Michael Moy pitched a show called No Ma'am. The way the exec looked at him caused him to realize his time was done, and he was holding up traffic for other writers. Do some writers feel this way? It's an interesting thing because we've had a long-standing situation of writers being aged out of the industry. There's a lot of age discrimination that once you hit essentially late 40s to early 50s, you're considered to not be hip and cool and not be able to write for the next generation, and you just stop getting hired. And there have been lawsuits of people saying, class action lawsuits and all that stuff. And I'm in my late 40s, right? And thankfully, as knock on wood, I still have work, and despite being loud on the internet about The Last Jedi and everything else, right, I'm still getting work. And so, but what is happening is an interesting thing that's changing, because in the last 2 years, they have invested so heavily in these young, inexperienced people. Like, frankly, the director, Miss Kathy Yan, she wasn't experienced enough to take on Birds of Prey, having done a small independent film that essentially made only a few $100s at the box office, right? Literally, I think it made like $1,000 or something. I went check on IMDb, and then suddenly being given this massive franchise that's almost $100 million, and then how she's handled subsequently is not the way someone who's a seasoned director would handle the press and all of that. So they've invested a lot of money in these young people, only to have that explode in their face. And that includes people like Ryan Johnson, who's a sort of the younger end of Hollywood directors. And so I think you're actually having this phenomenon now of people going, we actually want some older, steady people to get the ship back on track, right? To make sure we don't hit the iceberg. And so it's an interesting phenomenon where suddenly people like me are being turned to for like, can you actually manage the ship? It's being run, it's being run by little kids. And yeah, they may be hip to what the market wants, but we're discovering they're actually not hip to what the market wants, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't have the experience. So it's going to be an interesting swing of the pendulum in some ways back to the 50s and the 60s. That's where we're going. The power structure is moving backwards.
Oh yeah, it's been an interesting kind of ordeal with seeing how it's weird that the woke movement has been so anti-white and anti-old men, especially. It's, I mean, even look and not just white men. Look at what happened to Walter Mosley in the Star Trek Discovery writers group, for instance. I mean, come on, that's a perfect example. We could go on all day about that, but I'm not going to, because I know we got a ton of great super chats to get to. So I'm sure Jeff wants to get started with those. So there you go.
Of course I do, but I mean, we're on a roll. Plus, we haven't had a chance to talk to Kamran on this channel, so I'm like excited because this is all new stuff.
No, I know, but it's just one of those things where I feel like how it's too much to say two wrongs don't make a right. Like, yeah, I know there's always been this overabundance of white men in Hollywood, but you could also always say there's always been an overabundance of a lot of white Jewish men or Jewish men in Hollywood in power too. So I mean, I don't know why.
You know what? There's been overabundance of an overabundance of mediocre people who are connected.
Then there's that. Well, that's the thing we're seeing now is all these Gilmore Girl writers coming in and getting, like you just said, like this one chick who got Birds of Prey and all these other people who have never done anything before, getting these huge franchises to basically destroy. Kurtzman's made a whole career out of it. Alex Kurtzman has. So, I mean, come on, J.J. Abrams has too, but at least J.J.'s made money for people. That's why he keeps getting the big bucks. But anyway. Yeah.
I mean, and J.J. Abrams, God bless him. I think he's very talented, but he's also part of that connected network.
I'll fight you on that, but
I will say this, and I would love to work with Mr. Abrams. I think that in his earliest part of his career, when he was just free to do whatever he wants and have a reputation, I think he took risks. He wrote.
Oh, he's a great writer.
Yeah. And then later on, he suddenly had a reputation and image to preserve, and the easier path became easier. But he's also from a family of very established producers. That's what I say, the overabundance of people connected to the network. I'm this random Pakistani dude who showed up here, and while I'm often attacked on Twitter as a hack, People will say, well, you worked on Twilight Zone, you can't be a great writer. Whatever I've gotten in this town, whatever credits I have, I seized them with my own hands against a lot of people that didn't want me to have the job, right? And so I'm very proud of whatever I've done because I'm not in the system, and my loudmouth political and religious beliefs make sure I remain on the fringe of the system. I'm still working.
Before I read any super chats, since you worked on the Twilight Zone and I'm a huge fan, what is your favorite original series episode? Just out of curiosity.
Oh my God! We have to watch so many of them when we're doing the remake. I mean, there's so many brilliant ones. I think the one that touches me the most emotionally is the one where you had the gentleman who loved books, because I'm a bibliophile. I have thousands of books. I have 2 storage rooms full of books that I'm never going to.
This is fucked up because I was just talking about this episode the other day.
So so we're connected. So this is the where he loves books, and then he just doesn't have time to read books. And then there's a nuclear war outside. And he comes out, and everyone is dead. And
Burgess Meredith,
and then he breaks his glasses so he can't read. And so that's the ultimate irony of it. And so as a bibliophile, that hit me really deeply. So yeah.
I just always ask because people know I can go on and on about Twilight Zone. The fact that you worked on it's pretty awesome to me. So I just had to ask.
And some of the episodes were good. If you have, we look, anyone does a Twilight Zone remake gets a lot of crap. But the one we did with Forrest Whitaker has some good episodes. I wrote a couple of them, and so there's some stuff that we're proud of. I wrote an episode about where Katherine Heigl, very early in her career, plays a woman sent back in time to kill Adolf Hitler as a baby. Taking that archetypal idea and actually playing it out, and it doesn't go the way you expect. And so I'm very proud of what we did on that show.
Well, you kind of sold me on that premise alone because I pulled up the Wikipedia page because full transparency, I've watched every episode of the original, a handful of the 80s, and I've only seen the Forrest Whitaker one on UPN in the middle of the afternoon. I'm like, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to watch the old one. But
you should watch my episode, which is the Katie Heigl, and there's also an incredible episode that hit. We got thousands of letters and emails about called Upgrade, which is an episode about a woman that's watching little by little. She walks in one day and her dog looks different. Everyone's like, "What do you mean? That's your dog. It's always been your dog." And every photo of her has a different dog. And then the next day she walks in and her husband is not the same man she knew. It's a totally different guy. But everyone's like, "That's your husband. What are you doing?" And one by one, everyone, her life changes. And it's a really interesting thing as her life is transforming and she's losing her mind. People said that's one of the classic Serling episodes that you did.
Well, I'm very strict on my Twilight Zone. It makes me wonder why the new version is missing out on some originality like this, because we watched all of the new ones for our Patreon, and I love the show Key and Peele. I don't like Jordan Peele's movies, and to me, it's just the new one, with the exception of the first one with Camille Nanjiani. That was a good episode. Other than that, it's very too on the nose. There's no more allegory. I mean, you worked on the Twilight Zone. You know the formula to get it to work. Today's writers are just like, it's an allegory for the police brutality, and it's not even an allegory.
That's the problem right there. You just said it. It's too on the nose. These writers don't understand nuance. They don't understand, these younger guys and gals don't understand, the difference between plot, story, characters, and, the basic fundamentals of writing sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
Like you watch some of this shit.
Yeah.
But the other issue is ideological because, we're at a place where because of all these woke rules, there's nothing to analogize. Everyone's just preaching, right? Everyone just wants to because right now the woke people have to preach at you. They can't take the risk that you might not get the analogy. So you can't do a Twilight Zone episode if you're not willing to veil it under an analogy and under a simile, right? And so that's the problem of where we are, is that Rod Serling was the greatest teacher. He wasn't a preacher. He was a teacher. He used storytelling to teach you something, which Gene Roddenberry did as well. But this current era of storytelling is about preaching, and nobody's interested in that.
Well, I don't want to, like I said, I'm going to stop myself from Twilight Zone talk because it's going to go on and on and on.
No, but exactly what you just said is...
I did all kinds of genre stuff.
But what he just said is the exact problem we say with Star Wars, Star Trek, everything else. We're sick of being preached at. Orville's getting it right. Cobra Kai is getting it right. There's a few other exceptions right now that are getting it right. And those are the shows that make you think. They don't tell you how to think.
Yeah, exactly.
I miss it.
The best thing of any episode or anything I've ever made is have people walk out of there debating and arguing and have a different opinion as to what I was trying to say. And that's for a writer, for me, at least that's very fulfilling.
So I'm going to take Tom's advice. I'm going to go catch up on our super chats. First off, our friend Space Monkey 0899 says Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is now on Nintendo Switch. I saw the trailer today. I really want to play it. I don't want to give Lucas film money, but it's such a good game. I'm torn.
Ecto One Racer's fun though. I still have it on N64.
I do too. I never got rid of my I never got rid of any of my games, but that was one of my all-time favorites.
I liked it. It was one of the better ones. I kind of like just a mindless racer sometimes, and that was funny too. Like you play some of the characters, just the nonsensical Star Wars languages that they yell at each other.
I think that the people at Lucasfilm had a hell of a sense of humor back then, and LucasArts.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever played the Episode 1 game that came out on PS1 and I'm assuming a few other platforms?
I know what you're gonna. Are you talking about the Anakin thing?
Yes.
Tell the audience. I don't want to steal your thunder.
You know it?
Yeah, I do.
Yes! Somebody else knows it. I see. If you kill too many people when you get to that process, Anakin won't help you. He calls you a filthy murderer.
You're Vader, you kid. What's wrong with you?
Everyone's got to start out somewhere.
So I go around killing if you kill like Jar Jar, it starts you over because you can't kill him or whatever, or it just won't let you kill him. I can't remember which, but yeah, because I tried so hard to kill that bastard. Oh, it is funny. You kill too many people, he gets pissed off at you. He's like, he won't help you, and he runs away from you. And then everybody's like, it's the crazy murderer and shit like that when you start walking down the street.
Up next, we had our friend Kendo Slice who says, I miss hockey. I know, Kendo. I know you miss sports this year, buddy, but you're going to be okay. Like I said earlier to Jesse, at least you may miss out on sports this year, but last 2 seasons, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl and the Blues won the Stanley Cup. So you're on cloud 9. Your favorite teams won, nonstop. So if there's never another sports season, there you go. Kansas City Chiefs, last Super Bowl champion. Kendo, be happy. Our friend Culture Casino made our awesome introduction, gave us a unicorn sticker. Thank you very much, Culture Casino. Infinite Wonder says, have you watched Diamond Jack yet? I have not. I've been following The Last of Us 2 news, making videos. I haven't watched anything outside of a Burn Notice episode, so it's been a minute. Like, fully paid attention. Kendo Slice also says, let's go Blues! Thank you, Kendo, again. Let's go Blues. Play Gloria. Infinite Wonder was asking, he says, my super chat last week wasn't asking if I could use BSers as villains. I wanted your help coming up with villains, please. Sorry, Infinite Wonder. If you could ask us on Thursday just in a basic message, I'll gladly tell the guys that, because we thought, you were asking us to be the villains. I was like, of course, we'll have fun with that. But I misread your message, man. So yeah, we can help you out. You can always shoot us an email, or you could just remind us on the show so I can get all the guys' input. Matt G sends in a super chat sticker of a piece of cake. Thank you very much. Space Monkey 0899 says epic in regards to, I'm assuming, Michael Keaton. Oh no, Dr. Stephen or author Stephen Walton's intro. Calftron says for Walton's intro. Thank you very much. And Rak Eidshima or Eidsmasha says an orc is slowly clapping. Andy Lee, thank you very much. He says, I was thinking that Steven should record his intros for each of you as an intro, but this one works.
Oh, he's amazing. And his power went out. I guess he's having some storms. That's where he went.
Yeah, here I am so dumb I wasn't looking at my DMs on Twitter like I never do.
Yeah, I saw it earlier. He said it in the chat too. But
yeah.
No, we love Steven. He's definitely the minister of the Fandom Menace, whatever you want to call it, besides the historian. He gets us all fired up. So
Mecca,
I'm happy to have him on.
Mecca, we should all get cake. We have ice cream cake in the freezer, but
everybody likes cake.
That's true. And Ethan is the pie master. I thought it was funny when he had me to his house. He honestly had 4 pies just there. He's like, "Yeah, there's my pies." So it's not a joke on the YouTube channel. He likes pies.
I've watched a video one night where he live streamed going to Walmart and buying pie in the middle of the night.
Right here, there's a place up in the canyon that's just called You Need Pie.
Let's see. Next we had our. Sorry, I was reading your message, Tom. Our friend John Doe says, "Katia stands." Thank you very much. I think he's so excited over. Why don't you call him Doctor Author Stephen? Jesse has a friend named Dr. Stephen Prostitute. Long story. Anyway, Culture Casino says, "Hail to the brothers and sisters of the chat." Yes, hail everyone tonight, folks. Always hail. I know a lot of people are like, "Hey, we missed you yesterday," where I hail everybody in the chat at the beginning of the streams. I'll be back tomorrow night, but sorry, folks, I had some stuff I had to take care of. Our friend Private Halo 117 says, that sounds almost like the one I gave you guys a few weeks ago. Hope you all have fun in Vegas. I'm going back to work July 1st at my 5-star restaurant that I work at as a bartender. No, is that a graduate picture. Happy birthday, Jesse. Well, Private Halo, remember, that's not until December. So, I mean, we can have our Fandom Menace meetup, and you can be there. It's, 6 months away almost. So, by the way, Cameron, people are saying you need a YouTube channel.
I do have a YouTube channel. So if any, it's my name, Kamran Pasha 72. The only thing on there, I have a couple of short films that I've uploaded. I've only used it for trying some experimental stuff in films. Anyone's welcome to go and check out those things. I've got a short film and a trailer for another movie that I'm working on that I put up there. And so I'm just enjoying coming into everybody's live streams. Like I said, for me, this is fun because I've been a fan for everybody for the last 2 years, and suddenly going from just being a random person in the chat, hoping to be noticed, to being able to participate is a great feeling for me.
Oh, it's been awesome. I even text Tom earlier, like, what a great guest we have for tonight. Is like, Tom, how did you do this? So, dude, thank you for joining.
Me. I mean, hopefully very soon I'm going to have one of my TV shows back on the air, and then I'll be like, guys, I can't do it. I'm too busy right now. But right now, Hollywood is pretty slow. So I'm like, all right, I'll get on YouTube. It sounds good. Fun.
Well, hopefully, if before everything picks back up, I'd love to do like a interview you one-on-one for like a podcast, not lifestyle, because I got a lot of like industry questions and stuff. Plus, I don't want to bore people like geeking out over the Twilight Zone, but there's a lot of stuff to ask you. And I was like, oh man, this guy knows everything. So
I'd be delighted. I think I just did a recent 2-hour thing just going over my show. It's Sleeper Cell. So I'm happy to talk about anything you want to do.
Cool. Well, then we'll talk at the end of the stream. I'll let the people figure out when it goes live. We also had our friend Melissa Lord says, do Batman Beyond and The Flash can be a cameo for Keaton? I would love to see a Batman Beyond film. Cameron, have you watched Batman Beyond at all, the cartoon from '99? Yeah.
I mean, it's a good cartoon. In fact, I worked on. I was actually the head writer for the Tron animated series. So if any of you watched Tron Uprising, that's what it's called. It came out about 10 years ago, and it was only one season, and I was the head writer, and then I got fired because I challenged people at Disney for the way they were doing things, and so I've got some strong opinions about Disney as a result of that. But I'm very proud of the show, and it still has a fan base. But the reason I bring that up is that Batman Beyond and some of those kinds of cartoons were the things that I wanted to make the Tron show be inspired by, because that's the kind of thing that little kids can watch and adults can watch, and the storytelling works for both. And that's what I tried to do with Tron Uprising.
That's something that's definitely missing, because we had the Batman cartoon in the 90s, then the X-Men cartoon. There's just this crossover that I think if a company can put out a crossover show that appeals to kids and adults, when those kids become adults, they'll still watch the show and they'll transfer it to the next generation. Like, I think Batman the Animated Series will just live on forever cyclically. You don't even need new episodes. People will just
it still works. Because it still works, and that's what I tried to do with Tron. But then, I talked back to the wrong person inside of Disney, and I was done.
Ouch.
Ooh.
It's a town.
What was the feeling towards Tron Legacy, the film at Disney? Did they kind of look at it as an embarrassment, or is Tron just something they own? They're like, we'll do stuff with Tron when anniversaries hit.
Well, I was there when I was actually there before the movie came out. I actually had the animated show had been greenlit as essentially a prequel to that movie. The same writers who had written the movie had written the concept of this show, and then they hired me to essentially execute that, right, and bring in a writers team, which is what I did. And at the time, I was actually able to go onto set because they were doing reshoots for that Tron movie, for Tron Legacy, and I actually was able to go in to set and see some of the reshoots, and Olivia Wilde was there, and I had a little bit of a crush on Olivia Wilde. So I was like, oh my god, Olivia Wilde is here, so that was great. But the movie was meant to have started a major new franchise, of which the animated show would have been part of. Unfortunately, the movie did not make as much money as they wanted. It fell short by probably a couple. I mean, I think it ultimately was profitable, but I think it fell short by a few $100 million of what they were expecting. They thought it was going to become a major.
I was going to say, wasn't it more so that it cost a little too much, but it didn't
cost
do
a lot,
that
bad. And it didn't make the profit that they wanted to, and it died, which wasn't the plan. And then Tron animated series died because they fired
Which is messed up, because I know the animated series was very beloved from my recollection. Like, I remember getting a lot of good hype online.
Yeah, it was, and it is what it is. I went the day that I was let go. Because I've got a big mouth. I said directly to the executive. I said, "It's your show. You can let me go. I will tell you that what you're going to do next is you're going to bring on a yes man who's going to do everything you're saying that's wrong, and will not challenge you, and your show will be canceled within one season." And the show they did that. They found a nice gentleman to replace me. He didn't challenge them, gave them exactly what they wanted, which is not what you do in Hollywood, because the executives actually don't want you to give them what they want, because they believe that you as an artist hopefully have a better idea than what they're saying. So if you actually don't resist and give into everything they want, you're going to end up making the show that they don't even believe in themselves, right? And which is what happened, and the show got canceled.
That I'm sad about the Tron stuff, because I had heard the rumor that John Carter's massive failure like a year or two later or something.
Well,
really
I was there when it happened. I was there when John Carter failed.
Oh, okay.
Now,
Yeah. I never thought that movie was like the garbage dump fire that everyone said it was. It was just kind of like meh.
I mean, it's a flawed story structure of a brilliant idea. And part of it, the problem was the marketing. The marketing, had they simply titled it John Carter of Mars, that's enough, because then it's a science fiction movie, that's set on Mars. But the John Carter itself is not. It's by Burroughs, the creator of Tarzan, and so but most people don't remember it. So the marketing should have been from the creator of Tarzan, the movie, the story that inspired Star Wars, John Carter
and Superman in a lot of ways, wasn't it?
Exactly. I mean, this is from the early 20th century. This story, the princess.
Oh, Andre's a big fan too. Yeah.
So it was a marketing mistake. It was a lot of strategic errors. I think that there were script problems, but it's not a bad movie. I think the acting is really good, and I think there were some script errors, but it didn't deserve to fail. And it didn't. And had it been marketed properly, it would have at least broke even.
Taylor Kitsch was such like a generic actor that he could have fit into more roles, but he had that and then Battleship first, then that, and he kind of just went back to TV. And he was a terrible Gambit, but I don't think he's like. He's a lot like the guys from Supernatural, where given the right project, he just kind of fits he's like a Lego piece, really. He just fits there and he does his job, and he kind of works and fits. But
and I think he did a good job in John Carter for what he was given. I think he did a good job, and it was.
He's not the problem.
Well, I was there when the movie Returns came in, the first weekend Returns, and it was a disaster. And literally, they fired the president of Disney a few days after that. And it was like, I came into the office, everyone's like, yeah, the big boss is gone. I was like, oh, that's what happens.
Now, were you also there for the Lone Ranger? Or no?
I was not there for the Lone Ranger, but I really like that movie. I really like that movie. So you don't have to agree with me on that. I enjoyed that.
It's
movie.
not that okay. I feel like the Lone Ranger, and I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible.
Okay, here we go.
Is tonally all over the place.
It is.
And it's not sure what it wanted to be.
That's true, and I still enjoyed it.
Otherwise, it could have been something good. And that's the sad part about that whole era of the Disney the model going at, because that's when they were like, we're going to try and get boys on board. Instead of we're going to buy boy properties and then try to flip them for girls, because like back then that was the whole thing, is like, we got to get the boys on board because Disney is not popular with boys.
Growing up.
Yeah. So that was what really upset me about that.
Ideological, because it's fascinating to me that and it's actually a relatively recent phenomenon of this gender bending storytelling thing that they're trying to do. Hollywood has always been a sexist place. The casting couch has always been there. Going back to the silent movies, here's a shocker: it's still going on right now, even in the midst of Me Too, right? And so Hollywood has always been. But then they always had this sort of sense of the masculine and the feminine, the idea that the audience wanted, manly men and feminine women in these roles. And then again, I think related to Trump, in the last few years, there's been this ideological move to do this gender bending. It's all been part of some of the gender conversations we're having right now, which I don't think mainstream America is really interested in being involved in that conversation. And so you've had the movies moving in this direction that I just don't think the audience wants this kind of stuff.
I think you made a great point. I think a lot of people forget, like, they call them the flyover states or just, middle America or whatever. Like, you have to, as a studio, I think you should take that approach as well. Because, like you said, masculine men, feminine women, X, Y, and Z, like those traditional things. That's why the Marvel movies, even up until this recent craze of Captain Marvel and the stupidity, you've always had, the masculine men. You've had your Scarlett Johanssons. I mean, her costume's gotten more conservative as time's gone on. But I mean, like, they were doing those basic things to sell you those movies very early. And it's so weird to think like that ideology in a business is more important than like thriving and existing. I don't get it.
It is when you have a lot of money in your hand. It is when things are going well, and so you delude yourself that things are going well because of your ideology. But when things contract, then you don't have time for delusions anymore. And that's the era we're in.
It's disappointing, Tom. It's fun though to hear about like the inside of like movies that we went and saw. Like I saw John Carter and the fucking power went out at the theater because people were. It was weird too. It's like, oh great, no, sorry, I take that back. That was Signs. The fire alarm got pulled in John Carter, and so yeah, I was just like, oh okay, that's what I remember from the film. But let me read a couple more of these because I have other things.
Yeah, let's try and get caught up here a little bit. Yeah, definitely.
Let's see. Matthew Anderson, thank you very much. He says, I just watched Batman Forever for the first time in honor of Schumacher.
Oh, wow.
I thought it would be just as bad as Batman and Robin, but actually I had a fun time with it.
Well, I'm glad to hear it kind of holds up. That's kind of encouraging to hear.
I'm just happy people are giving it a chance. You don't have to love it. Just give it a shot. Batman and Robin is not Batman Forever.
Yeah, but you're right. Batman Forever does unduly get look, the worst part of Batman Forever, I'm going to say it, it's Tommy Lee Jones.
Ooh.
That's it. That's the worst part of the movie. Why? Because he's hamming it up like a motherfucker, and he thinks he's in a cartoon. That's why. Jim Carrey is a cartoon.
Yeah.
And he's trying to outdo Jim Carrey. That's the problem with that movie. And he hated Jim Carrey through the whole making of the film. And it shows in his performance.
Yeah.
Folks, I recommend you guys.
Don't get me wrong, I love Tommy Lee Jones with a passion. I mean, he's a great actor, but I think he was not meant for that movie. They did fucking Billy D. Williams dirty as hell on that movie, even though he got paid. But I think if Billy D. Williams would have been in that movie, I bet you he'd have had a bigger career in the late 90s.
I don't. It would have been weird though, because even as a kid, like I don't think they ever really planned for him to be more.
Oh yeah, he was totally meant to be. He got paid because he wasn't in it.
Well, no, I understand that.
Oh yeah.
But I was saying, like in the '90s, we didn't have multi-verse versions of this and that on TV. It was like Batman's on TV. Two-Face was white in the show. It wasn't like a direct connection to the movies at all. But I think it would have been really jarring for a lot of like kids. You go to the movie and you're like, Two-Face usually has a half blue face. I was weirded out that his face was purple, not blue. So I mean, even those little things like that, I think
that stuff didn't bother me. I was actually happy that they had the black version because at the time, I think that's what he was in the comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, no, Harvey Dent's just been Harvey Dent.
Yeah, I think they were going. I mean, he's always kind of been mixed, but I think they were going for the more black version in that time period. I could be wrong, but I thought they did Billy D. Williams very. I was upset when he wasn't Two-Face because I was expecting. I mean, I could deal with Michael Keaton being gone because that was all over the news. But when I heard that they were having Tommy Lee Jones and not Billy D. Williams, I'm like, what the hell is this? But again, I was old enough at that time period to be like, more than aware of what was, I was a teenager. So I mean. Again, Dr. Coffin says me too. So yeah, he's from probably my same age. So there was a lot of people who thought that was kind of bullshit.
Our friend 60. Yeah, I was just too young for it. Tommy Lee Jones is not my issue with that movie. Some of the over-the-top scenes are just dumb and they don't really hold up well. But I think
we'll go through most of the over-top scenes. Who's at the center of them all?
Obviously, Tommy Lee Jones.
That's exactly my point.
Dude, the part where he has the baby carriage and he throws off the drape or whatever and he shoots the rocket launcher at the Batmobile, that is the dumbest. And the car going up the wall, that's dumb,
See, the Riddler works like that because all Jim Carrey's doing is like basically, what's his face from the 60s version? Help me out here, Mecca.
Frank Gorshin?
Frank Gorshin, yeah. Frank Gorshin on crack. That's all he's doing.
Jim Carrey's fine.
Yeah, he did a great version.
He is wacky and weird in that character.
Yeah, he did basically that guy, yeah, he did the Frank Gorshin version. No problems there. He didn't go too far from the mothership. Two-Face though was somebody that we hadn't really seen before, and Billy D. Williams, I think, would have been a much darker, realer Two-Face, and Tommy Lee Jones, like I said, was just, in my opinion, the wrong choice. But anyway, we've gone way too far.
Well, Tommy Lee Jones is the guy in The Fugitive who says, "What are you gonna do? Catch him?" He's that guy, right? I mean, only he could do it.
I don't care.
He's that guy. He's not Harvey Dent. All right. He's wacky,
dumb,
mentally ill, crazy guy. Half his face is burned off. Whatever.
He's a grumpy old man in real life. That's what he is.
That's why he works so well in Men in Black as Agent K. Because he bounces off the exuberance of Will Smith, and he's just kind of the grounding agent. But I don't know, Tom. If you have time and you're in the chat, pop on over to the chat of Jesse's channel and remind me of Batman Forever.
Well, here's a story for. I'll definitely come over there if not. But Here's one I do remember that Jim Carrey said that Tommy Lee Jones told him on the first day. He goes, "I don't like you. I don't have time for your buffoonery."
Well, who's the bigger star, Tommy? Let's see. Up next, we have our friend 16-Bit Mascot who says, "Hail the High Council. Glad to see you all tonight. $1 for each of you." Jesse included. Cheers. Well, thank you, 16-Bit Mascot. Well, Cameron, if you're a drinker, I'll buy you a beer in person. If not, I'll buy you whatever the hell people drink in California.
I don't drink alcohol, but I love tea, so you can buy me an English breakfast. Is that good?
There you go. I've never had an English breakfast, the actual meal, but drank a ton of the tea. Up next, we have our friend Battle Him 63 says, why don't they first try to make a good movie? Okay, Cameron, question is, have you ever been in a situation where instead of a concept, you come up with an idea, not you personally, but they come up with like, I want to represent this, this, and this, and then they write a story to fit that? Or is it other way around?
That's very common. You know, it's what you're describing is more common in movie making. I mean, feature filmmaking is often you come in with a property like, oh, we have the rights to Barbie. How do we make a movie out of that, right? Okay. And so, or some guy comes up with, some executive will come up with, I want to do something about chemical weapons. And that's the extent of what the idea is. And like, well, how do I make a movie about chemical weapons being the center of it? So that happens a lot in filmmaking, because the structure of storytelling is different, at least in modern film since the 60s, I would think, where it went to a movie making became the director, the auteur theory, that the director became the center of filmmaking and the screenwriter became, in the background. Whereas in television, writers are still the dominant force. On TV shows that I've worked on, I am the boss of the director. The writer's room controls the story of the show. The directors come in and out every week and they answer to us. And so in that environment, at least good storytelling is one where you plan it out and you don't do the, let's try to put this Twinkie in here and find a way to do that. There's a lot of bad TV out there that is based on that. And, there's a lot of TV out there that follows this sort of make it up as you go along process like Lost was, right? And I don't personally like or appreciate that kind of storytelling. Whatever shows that I've worked on or whatever shows that I'm developing right now, I lay out a full plan for the whole season and for 5 years. I can tell you I've got a couple of TV shows I'm developing into series right now, and I can tell you not only how season 1 ends, I can tell you how season 5 ends, and I know already where that's going. And that, I think, is more satisfying to the audience when you have a plan. As we saw with Star Wars, going back to Star Wars, we saw with the Kennedy Disney trilogy, right? There's no plan, and look what the end result is. It's just bumbling nonsense, right, from movie to movie.
Yeah. And on the flip side of that, you have Babylon 5, which was laid out in advance, and that's absolutely amazing. So
yeah,
I think people appreciate that when they at least get a payoff, because how disappointing it is every time you get a TV show or a movie where you've got this build up and set up, and then the payoff is horrible. The ending, Game of Thrones comes to mind for a great thing. Rise of Skywalker. Even Star Trek lately has been pretty much shit with that.
Well, that's notorious. Most shows have a bad ending, and I think it's because they don't have it planned.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the biggest thing. And Captain Robert April, I got to say, Jim Carrey's kind of on an upward trajectory. I think he learned that his politics were getting in the way of a lot of his bullshit. Mm-hmm. Sonic was a decent hit. He's got at least 2 more movies of those coming. I guarantee it. I bet you he signed a 2 or 3 movie deal for that.
Yeah, Sonic was a surprise hit.
Plus, his Showtime show did really well, didn't it? That Mr. Rogers type show he was doing. I can't remember the name of it, but
he's coming back. I mean, he's learned to keep his mouth shut a little bit. He's a little crazy. He did a lot of weird things for attention, like stalking girls on Twitter for a while, doing strange things, right? And just to try to generate attention, which is a bad idea. Just like focus on your craft, man, because you're a funny guy. And now that he's doing that, he's back on track.
I think he was just trying to be Andy Kaufman in the digital age. Instead of having
maybe he got stuck.
I mean,
he was so method working on that too.
I know, I love that movie. That movie never gets enough credit.
Tom, you've talked to Fed a little bit, right?
Oh yeah.
He worked on that. So.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know he did that. I know he's worked on a few things, and his mom and stuff like that is in the industry or whatever. But yeah,
that Man on the Moon movie. Anyway,
I'll have to talk to him about that. I didn't know that. I was so mad. I yelled at the 12-year-old girls who left. It was like me and my buddy, and then like up and about 2-3 rows ahead, there was like 2 or 3 12-year-old girls, and you could tell they just came to the movie because they thought it was going to be a Jim Carrey movie, and they left, and it's like, you idiots, this is not a typical Jim Carrey movie, It's like whatever.
They probably never even heard of Andy Kaufman.
No, they didn't. They had no idea what they were getting into, and I was just pissed he never got at least nominated for that.
Well, as long as Jim Carrey never touches another Dumb and Dumber film, he and I will be cool. Because Dumb and Dumber 2 is one of the worst sequels ever made.
I don't know. I didn't hate it.
The thing is, dude, like, okay, Cameron, you're a writer. If you have established story elements in the first film, do you wipe them away for the sake of a joke in the second?
Well, part of the thing of
it is Dumb and Dumber, though, Jeff.
Yeah, that's the thing. Dumb and Dumber is absurdist, right? The franchises, and I think they were trying to do. We don't have to. These two guys are absolute morons. So why should we have to follow any kind of storytelling structures for two morons, right? And I think that's the idea. Look, the first one is always going to be a classic. It's
it's not a nut hair on the original, but I think it has some pretty good. I thought it was kind of clever.
Well, my issue, it's like at the end when they find out, they're like, okay, in the first one they clearly both slept with Freda Felcher and Lloyd screwed over Harry. But in the second movie they go, what sex? They've never had sex. Like really, like something so basic that is the premise of one of their issues in their friendship. That's in the first movie, Mr. French Tickler. They're like, oh, that never happened. It's just they wipe out story elements, and I'm like, this is established.
I don't remember the no sex joke. I'll have to go back and watch it.
That's my number one complaint at the very end about the daughter when they're like, they think one of them's she's the daughter, and they never have had sex with Freda Felcher the whole time. It was just like, huh? So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not going to go on that rant.
I think I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get it. Okay.
So let's see. Stone Cold Jeremy had a Batman Forever moment. He says, "Best Holy Rusted Metal Batman, worst. Suit me up, Uncle Alfred." Oh God. Well, that's from Batman and Robin. Ooh.
The fact that they got a felching joke in a PG-13 movie, I think, is good enough for me. But that's just, I'm not going to go any farther.
You know, Tom, I'm going to write a movie, PG-13 film. It's going to be trash, but it'll have that joke. So I want you to tell everyone on Midnight that it's the biggest movie of the year.
Freda Felch.
Rhino4563, thank you very much. He says, guys, Ezra Miller did a cameo on the CW Flash as the DCEU Flash on the crossover event. So I'm sure there'll be a mention of the CW multiverse. Cameron, do you think they have a plan for a lot of the CW shows? Because, you said you have season 1 planned through 5 and all that stuff. Do you think they have a plan, or do you think they're just kind of bouncing off what's popular?
I know some of the people working on there. I'm actually friends with some of the people that are pretty high level, as in showrunners of some of these shows. And so I will not critique those shows here out of respect for them. But from my conversations with them, they do have a plan. I think they look at what characters and what stuff the market is responding to. These are all Berlanti TV projects, and Greg Berlanti is a genius. He's created this $1 billion. He's probably worth a few $100 million himself, and he's a young guy who's created all this franchise of all of these superhero shows under the CW. I've worked at the CW a few times myself, and so Berlanti knows how to manage, and he doesn't micromanage any of those shows, but he sets in these plans in motion. And I think like they've had these crossover events planned a couple of years in advance, so it's a pretty tightly run machine there.
I've only watched a handful of episodes, but Rhino4563, I guess they have to acknowledge it since they talked about that. Like I said, never been my cup of tea. Never been a fan of the DC multiverse, Rhino. Always been, I like the one universe 616 Marvel style that they had done, and they introduced, they always had the what if universe, and they definitely introduced the Ultimates in the 2000s, but I don't know. Hopefully this is going to be that jumping off point so everyone can accept it. Rafael Jimeno says, has Michael Keaton imagined all the people or taken responsibility enough? ? Is that a joke that I'm completely missing, Tom?
I don't think he would. That's the whole thing with the whole the actors going out, I take responsibility for the whole Black Lives Matter thing.
Oh, that cringe meme.
It was almost as bad or worse than the Imagine video, but yeah. I see there's a lot of
it was worse. The Imagine video was just tone deaf. This was degrading.
I would say this is worse. You're right. I see a lot of people talking about the Let's Get Nuts line in the chat. If somebody wants to animate this for me, I would love you forever. I want you to take the scene where he's like, come on, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. And then cut to a scene where Bruce Wayne and the Joker just go get nuts at like a hot nut stand outside. And they're like, these are good. Yeah, it really hits the spot. Then cut it there.
I have the song, I've got hot nuts. And
go for it. There you go. I'll take the copyright claim. I don't give a shit.
Well, can I ask one question? Because I'm going nuts over this question. Why am I the only one who's got his face on? Should I also go why are you guys all hiding? Or is
I'm
this
hiding because I don't have makeup on. I've
Because
got my
I'm in the middle of moving and my lawn, I got crap.
I'm not going to force you. You can go back to hiding. I just felt like
or if I do, it's
He's
weird.
not
for
my
earlier
cover.
today.
There's one dude in the corner who's got like his entire house on screen, and everyone else is not there.
I got boxes all over behind me.
Oh, what?
I got
my
a
mom background, whatever.
I got Corona hair, but I could show it if need be. It's just
Corona hair.
Summer, Bo, you got your voice. We're all good.
I got Corona beard right now.
Tom, remember when I tried to grow one and it turned out terrible?
It wasn't your best moment. I'll give you that.
Wasn't my best moment. My Corona beard was not a good moment. I'm gonna leave it off. I don't care.
I have a face for radio, so
You have a great voice, though. There's a '90s voice actor you sound just like, and I don't know his name, but I'm gonna look him up. He was like never the main character of shows. He was always like a secondary character, but he did like every show in the '90s for kids. He did animation commercials.
What
And
were
he
we
also,
just watching? There's something we were just watching or listening to. And we're like, that kind of sounds like Tom.
yeah, there's somebody out there, man. I gotta look up his name. But as soon as I find it, I'm gonna send it your way, and you should just be like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna take over this."
I've
guy.
always wanted to do voice. I mean, I got people who always bug me. I do a lot of voice work for free. I haven't got paid much for it.
You actually have a really good voice, professional voice. You
I
really
just did a bunch of shit for a video game where I got to do that. Watch where you're going, buddy,
get paid
and
for
stuff
it.
like that kind of thing.
Hey, what's wrong with you? Come on, get paid.
Frank
I
Welker's
never wanted to be on
amazing.
microphone. I always wanted to be like behind the scenes. I just wanted to do writing and shit behind the scenes and stuff. But yeah, people are just like, oh no, just do this, say this. You can speak, you can do. Like, okay, if you really want me to.
Maybe he is the Maybe it is the Darkwing Duck guy that I think you sound like.
Are you thinking of? Oh, you really think of the Winnie the Pooh guy? What's his name?
There's a specific actor that did a ton of stuff just everywhere in the '90s.
Yeah, and I can't think of his name now either.
And it's not Frank Welker. I know Frank.
No.
Welker.
I know who you're talking about. He's gosh, what's his name? Jim
Thank you,
Cummings. Jim Cummings.
That's
thank
what I
you,
think. Let
Joseph.
me look him up real quick. I think that's who I think you sound like.
I can kind of do some Jim Cummings voices. I definitely know who you're talking about. Yeah, Rob and I were actually talking about my voices the other day because it's like he's like, yeah, you can do the more guttural like Mel Blanc type of voices and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I grew up on doing and stuff. Because he was jealous of me being able to do Boris better than him. I'm like, dude, it's all right, but you can do like shit better than I can. So I was like, you're all right, man.
Cheech Marin's ridiculously good.
Oh, I know, right? I'm like, I could never do Cheech as good as that. Even my Tommy Chong is better because his Cheech is so good. My Tommy Chong sucks. You know what I mean? Like, but it's up against his Cheech, so it works. So his Cheech is he could call up somebody and do that, and they would believe it's Cheech calling them. I guarantee it.
Well, now that we're on Cheech and Chong, I have to actually apologize. I need to head out in a short amount. Is there anything else I can raise before I hop out?
Shoot.
I can answer from your colleagues.
I think you did have one or two questions in the super chats if you want to peruse.
I'm pulling those up right now. Let's see. First off, Matthew Fowler says, "Hey, Cameron, nice to know there's sane people here in LA. I think additionally, the fall of Game of Thrones recruited us. Happy to know you're here."
Thank you, Matthew. You followed me on Twitter, so thank you. I'll be looking out for you.
Melissa Lord asks, Cameron, will there actually be an Obi-Wan series?
Good question.
It's interesting because first, let me go back before the Obi-Wan series. I'd heard a lot about the Boba Fett series that had been planned because a couple of friends of mine were in the inner circle of writers that were approached to do it, right? And they were so excited for this. And then I remember them coming in to me one day looking really depressed, and they're like, "Yeah, Boba Fett just got killed," right? And it was after a Solo, I believe, right? And so they're like, we just got pulled off the project, and so they've been bumbling around trying to figure out stuff. My understanding is that Boba Fett then eventually evolved into the Mandalorian, right? They essentially took the ideas of Boba Fett, the movie, and make it and turn it into the Mandalorian series. Now, with regard to Obi-Wan, I know that the project was pulled, and then you had Ewan McGregor say, "Hey, it's no big deal. We just want to tweak some stuff." From what I heard, it was a big deal. From what I heard, it was the situation where the scripts weren't working, and the scripts, they had pretty much written out the entire season. And again, I wasn't in the room. I haven't read these scripts. I'm telling you what friends of mine who are close to Lucasfilm have told me. So there's that one step of distance. But from what they've told me is that the scripts were done. The scripts were not in good shape. I don't know whether Ewan McGregor was happy with them or not. I do know that the project, because of all the nonsense that was happening at Lucasfilm, the project ended up getting pulled because they essentially what the pivotal thing was they released the crew. It was supposed to go into production. And when you release the crew, it means they can go get other work. So essentially they pull the plug on the project. So whatever they do now moving forward, I know they've been look. I don't even know if they have a new writers room. I know that they were looking for writers and trying to replace the writers that they had to essentially start all over again. So that project is at least dead for the upcoming year. If they actually get the scripts that they want, they're going to have to go start all over again, which is to get a new crew again, to lock in people again. I think a lot of the people they had before aren't going to come back because nobody wants to be jerked around like that. Nobody wants to be held while they were on hold thinking they had a show. They couldn't take other work. And so people lost money. And so I think it's going to be a damaged project. I hope it comes back in some, because we all love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. And so I hope in 2021 they get their act together. But I do think it's done for now.
I don't think we'll ever get that
Ouch.
show either, but ouch.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Dr. Coffindale.
Of the mismanagement of Lucasfilm. If they simply had focused on getting the right writers from the beginning, I'm sure their writers just said the right nonsense in the room, political blah blah, and we're like, you've got the
Can
right.
I ask a quick follow-up to that, though? Do you think KK may have intentionally sabotaged that show? Because, I mean, she's like, back at Celebration or whatever it was, she's like, oh, we've got it all written and blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's too much like The Mandalorian, so we got to rework it. You had how long to fix this? So to me, it's like the only thing that makes sense.
Lucasfilm is utterly mismanaged. I mean, it's a completely incompetently run company, right? I mean, the pattern that you're describing, Tom, is exactly what we witnessed with both Rogue One and with Solo, where you get all the way through and like, oh, this isn't what we wanted.
That's
how do
a
you
very
think
good
that's
point.
I mean, that's the pattern of how it's run. You have it run from the top from people that don't know what they're doing, can't judge quality when it's given to them, and can't judge bad quality when it's given to them. And what happens is the project gets all the way to the end of the journey, and then somewhere it goes up to Iger or someone else in the system. Someone says, this is garbage. What is this? Or where are we going? And the plug gets pulled. That's a consistent pattern. I'm sure Ms. Kennedy was resentful about how she had lost power in the last year and Mr. Favreau coming in and replacing her essentially. And so whether she pulled the plug on that, I don't think she could have done that on her own without Iger at least saying, all right, fine.
Not pulling the plug, but like intentionally sabotaging. Because like looking back at that announcement, it was almost like Ewan McGregor's like, I'm only going to do it if she asks me publicly to be Obi-Wan Kenobi again. Because I feel like there was some kind of animosity there or something. Like let's look at it this way. He's a white man taking the lead of a show.
Yeah, and I'm sure that kind of drama happened behind the scenes. I worked on a show, and I'm going to be careful what I say here because I worked on a show where one of the top players was a white male, and he essentially abdicated any responsibility for the show, even though he's one of the top writers of the show, because he was afraid of the cultural environment that we're in. And he basically said, we're just going to let inexperienced people run this show, and I'm stepping back because I don't want anyone saying the white male got involved and ordered around this person of color or this or that. And it was to the detriment of the show. So I'm sure that kind of drama happened. There is an ideological anti-white male thing at Lucasfilm. When we used to say that 18 months ago, I mean, Mecca, you did videos on this stuff, and you said that, and people were saying you're crazy. But look at the world right now; all these statues are coming down.
Well, yeah, it's the whole culture of the old white dude. You repeat it enough, and you do enough little techniques, whether they're intentional or not. Like you get somebody when they're low, when they're brokenhearted, and you can really bend them to your cause, to your cult, to your whatever agenda, if you want. And look what happened with Star Wars. All the people screaming and reeing about Ben in the I effing hate Star Wars video because Ben wasn't there as a Force ghost and all this stuff. And they use all these little techniques that end up just creating a mindless mass of dumbasses to go around and just recite back nonsense to the point where you've got, like for example, people protesting, you've got these little white girls flipping off black cops because
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to get real for a moment. it doesn't take no time at all to make somebody believe that a certain person of a certain color is a bad thing. But it takes hundreds of years to get over something like that.
Yeah.
It's not going to take long for the world to think that every white guy is bad. Trust me.
Oh, they already do. They already do. I was seeing today.
No, I'm just saying.
It's not racist to be racist against a white person.
It didn't take long to make America a racist country, but it took us over 100 some plus years to get over that. And we're still working on it.
Well, and they're trying to replace racism with racism in this, and that's the problem.
Yeah,
it's like
two wrongs.
Yeah, it's not labeled. You said it because I've had people in Hollywood say to me, racism is a word specifically for prejudice against black people and other minorities. It cannot be used for prejudice against white people because.
And you've heard that from Leslie, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that don't make sense to me. So and I'm a brown dude, so I'm like, that sound right to me. But it is where we are. Again, the people that are spouting this stuff, and I'm gonna get real too, and I'm gonna say something that might be a little offensive, but I'm gonna say it. The people that are largely spouting this kind of stuff, and the people that have been driving this ideology, have been primarily affluent white women in Hollywood.
Oh yeah,
not surprising.
Their goal was knock the white guy out so they can take control of the plantation. That was the goal, and that Kathleen Kennedy is the symbolic of that. Is that knock George Lucas out? I'm in charge now, and I've worked with people who think like this, and they are the most racist, demeaning, degrading people I've ever worked with. And they're all about, I got rid of this guy, now I'm driving this car, and you people are gonna lick my boots, you people of color, while I tell you all about how I'm gonna nobly save you. And I've worked with people like that, and it's been a pretty degrading experience.
So are you saying that every Karen in Hollywood wants to be basically their own Gone with the Wind?
Yeah, I mean, well.
Yeah. You were say, Mecca?
Oh, that's what it seems like. One of my viewers sent me this tweet. It's like a cartoon, basically, of a little white liberal sort of woman holding her hand over a black woman's mouth, saying, "Oh, you poor misguided fool! You don't know what anything is, so I'm going to speak for you on your behalf."
Yeah,
I got to apologize to Fragoff for comparing Scarlett to Kathleen Kennedy. My apologies.
and look, I'm going to say more controversial stuff, and I actually said this on another live stream a few days ago. Gone with the Wind is one of my favorite movies. Yes, I see the flaws in the movie. I see the historical issues in the movie. I see the historical issues in the novel. It's one of my favorite novels, right? I'm a novelist as well. And it is still an incredible, epic film. And you have to look at it in the context of when it was made. At the time that it was made, Selznick was thinking he was doing a revolutionary movie because he was going to put all these black actors in that he was pushing for, Hattie McDaniel. He wanted her to get the Oscar. He pushed for that. He, in his time, was like, man, I'm trying to make this movie that's going to push forward black people, right? And we look back and go, oh, you stupid racist. You had her be the mammy and all this stuff. It's like, you'd be shocked by that because he couldn't imagine what the world is going to be like 100 years later.
Oh, yeah.
He created that world that we're in 100 years later.
Well, not only that, she got a lot of backlash for portraying Mammy, but she connected to the role, I believe, because of her grandmother. And, there's all kinds of other things there. Like they ended up, because of how progressive people like Clark Gable were, they ended up desegregating the restrooms on set because they're like, wait a minute, there's like a million.
Well, and he and the other cast members got her into the Oscars because otherwise they weren't even going to let her into the building.
And the Oscars, in general, the Hollywood structure, like I said, they desegregated the bathrooms under this Gone with the Wind set, but in the Hollywood, rich liberal structure of Hollywood, 1938, 39, she had to sit at the Oscars at the black person table. She couldn't sit with her castmates. When she won the Oscars, she had to go back to the black people table. And so that's the liberal people of Hollywood. The structure kept it that way, and Selznick was fighting it.
They don't want to talk about that part, though, but they'll take Gone with the Wind out. And, there's also the point you just kind of made where, and Mecca was making too, where, even to this day, where people are like, when you try to bring up the Oscar, and I'm trying to get this quickly because I know you got to go and we got probably a couple more questions for you, but where the point they'll try to make is, oh, well, she won that Oscar for playing a slave. It's like, yeah, but you don't get it. The point is it's not the context of what she was doing. It's the fact that she won that Oscar and that the next person who did and the next person who did after that and so on and so forth down the line, it got to the point where it wasn't just, black people playing slaves winning Oscars. It was them playing other parts too, and not only just playing Sidney parts, but exactly. And it's Sidney Poitier and all that kind of stuff going down the line. Yeah, exactly.
And let's be honest here, she deserved the Oscar. That performance is incredible. And even in that script, Selznick made sure there were lines that where Red Butler says, you know, Mammy's the kind of person whose respect I want. He's a guy who doesn't give a shit about any of these people. He doesn't care about the South.
They're the only two good people in the whole movie.
Yeah, he has no respect for this culture and civilization. He has contempt for it, right? But he wants her respect. And there's this actual interesting moment in the movie where she, you know, he buys her a petticoat and she won't wear it because she's, oh, I'm not that kind of woman that I would wear this sexy petticoat. And then later you see her wearing the petticoat, showing that they had developed this human bond. It's for 1939. This is an incredible movement forward, and you have to see it that way.
Exactly.
Yes. Same thing with that John Wayne interview from Playboy. They make a big deal. It's like you're missing the entire point of the entire. And I don't have time to get down that rabbit hole because I don't know what's the next question we got here.
Well,
Jeff,
I'll go.
I'm sorry.
I always wanted to say, like, when do they or where do they draw the line at any of this stuff? It's getting crazy. I mean, you brought up Gone with the Wind last week. Forbes or Variety put out an article. We need to worry about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and Forrest Gump. So, I mean, it's getting really stupid out there.
Someone in the chat said it. I saw it flash by. The line is when the white women are targeted. When the rich white women that are behind this, they're the ones behind the ideological move, right?
Oh, let me introduce you to Brie Larson's Basmati Blues movie then.
And I think you're right, because look what happened when they announced Buffy. They didn't give a shit when they messed with anybody else's crap. The moment they said they're going to mess with Buffy, white women lost the damn minds.
Yeah, and so that's the limit, because that tells you who is at least in charge of the PR of this town right now. Are white women in charge of this town? No. Rich white dudes like Iger are in charge of this town. But those guys have figured out the best way for me to keep my job is to not get involved in drama and let these people, you know, do their thing, and I make money off it until I stop making money off of it, right? Mm-hmm. So they're letting them take the center stage of the political ideology of the town, even though nobody actually believes this stuff. The people I talk to all regurgitate this garbage. I had an argument with a friend of mine who's a screenwriter a few days ago. He's a rich guy, and he was arguing with me about Marxism and socialism and how, you know, we all got to raise our taxes. I'm like, dude, you go out of your way to make sure you pay like less than 10% of taxes. You structured your state that way. So stop telling me that we got to vote for people that are going to raise taxes on rich people. You're a rich dude, and you ain't going to allow yourself to be taxed. But you're going to say all this stuff, and you're all going to repeat this mantra, and nobody can question it. I'm like, you know, I'm the brown Muslim guy. I'm going to question it because they're all hypocrites.
Well, that's what I've loved out of people I've seen. And I got to say, I love it. And I'm sure a lot of them are in our audience right now. The people who call a lot of these celebrities out on their bullshit. Mm-hmm. Mecca's one of the front runners of that shit. Every time they do this, you know, imagine poor me, pity bullshit. I'm in my mansion trapped, you know, and I got more palatial grounds to walk on than you do in your entire town. But I'm, oh, woe is me bullshit. Oh, yeah. You know, she's at the head of that shit where people are starting to see this and they're like, you know what? Shut the hell up. Mm-hmm. You know, you got no room to bitch. We're sick of your pandering nonsense. You know, where you get off trying to tell us, you know, you want to make a difference? Pay my bills, motherfucker. Exactly. You know, my bills would cost you nothing compared to what you just made on your last fucking movie. You want to show us a difference? You want to make a change? Put your money where your mouth is, you know. And this goes, I know, this goes mainly just for the actors, because as Kamran will know, the writers, the crews, those people don't make dick.
No.
Well, writers in television make a lot of money.
That's the big guys do, but I mean, for the most part, the majority, unless you're a big name, somebody, you're not going to make that much money. That's my point. Unless you're, you know, one of these higher up, you know, everybody knows who you are.
Yeah, those guys. But yeah, I mean, so, but you know, but the one thing is the financial structure of Hollywood. Certainly in television, the very top people like Greg Berlanti is worth at least
exactly. I'm not talking about them.
Yeah, Dick Wolf is worth $1 billion, that kind of thing. But yeah, but you know, but we're certainly, I will say this: writers are not middle class people. We are at the very least upper middle class to upper class people. You know, the crews are the struggling people. The crews are the guys that and the gals who have been hit the most by the current lockdown. You know, the thing is, I've had a lot of screenwriters say, you know, we should have lockdown until there's not a single COVID case anywhere in the world. It's because they're all writing their script, right? And I was like, well, you know, my barber almost lost her business, and she's trying to send her kid to college because she's been locked out for 2 months, right, by the government. And so these working and the crews haven't worked in months. these people are losing their homes while you're talking about, we gotta be safe, right? I'm like, while you're earning money at home.
But you can go out and protest, though. That's okay. But you can't protest the lockdown because this one just drives me crazy. I just want to slap every celebrity or person who recites this back. Oh, they just are out there protesting.
Yeah, they want to get a
the
haircut and
lockdown
whatever.
because they want to get their hair done. I'm like, oh, or they wanted to work at their hair salon. You know, maybe they
Yeah,
want.
I mean, my barber said to me, "Look,
I don't want to hear about the police from the people who have private fucking security. I don't want to hear about barbers from people who have hairstylists. I don't want to hear about nail salons from people who have personal nail people. I don't want to hear about driving out in the public when you got people to go get shit for you, or you have it shipped in and all that kind of crap. It gets revolting after a while.
Double standard. That's the thing. It's like, oh, just admit you were wrong, and that you're just out there right now because you're guilty. You feel holier than thou, and it's you against them because it's not okay when they do it. It's okay when you do it.
Yeah, and I've been very vocal about hypocrisy. I actually support the right of anyone to protest in the pandemic.
Exactly.
Or the lockdown is what you feel you got to do that. You go out there, but I just can't handle hypocrisy of the same people attacking you when I said protest people have every right to be out there. Oh, they're killing people. Oh, lockdowns. Like, well, there was 1 million people in Hollywood, and literally 1 million people in Hollywood. It's like, it's not going to spread the virus. And so, whatever. So, but, it's interesting to talk about hypocrisy. I actually, if you remember, there was just a couple of weeks ago, it feels again 10 years ago, these celebrities put out a letter saying, an open letter saying how we have to abolish the police, right? And one of the people that signed that was Natalie Portman. And I wrote on my Twitter feed an open letter that got shared quite a bit, saying an open letter to Natalie Portman. I was like, Ms. Portman, do you remember a few years ago when you signed an open letter to free what's his name, the gentleman from the great child molester director guy?
Polanski or
Roman Polanski. So Roman Polanski. I was like, she signed an open letter with celebrities about 10 years ago saying we gotta forgive Roman Polanski and let him come back to America and let him work again. And then when Me Too started, she had to cover herself and said, she literally did an interview saying, I don't know what I signed. My friends gave me bad advice. I didn't think it out. It wasn't me. I didn't really believe what I signed. So I'm like, in a couple of years now that you're going to be putting out another thing, well, I didn't really sign the abolish the police thing. I mean, don't you learn from this? But they don't.
No, the Polanski thing was just the Polanski thing was just their own personal thing of they wanted to get him back over here so they could work with him and not have to go out. Over there and all that shit.
And I'm going to say something horrific here, and it's also true. Unfortunately, child abuse has been a real thing in Hollywood. And people cover it up, and very powerful people are still covering it up. And so, there's a lot of sympathy for Polanski by people who don't want you looking too closely into their private lives.
Well, and the other thing I'd ask Miss Portman is when was the last time she actually was pulled over by a cop? Better yet, when was the last time she actually had to deal with the police when she didn't actually call them herself?
Yeah.
Briefly before you go, just quick comments from Dr. Coffindale, who says Kamran Pasha for permanent High Council member. That'd be amazing. Melissa Lord wants to know how true is Lucas buying back Lucasfilm or Star Wars?
I only stated what I'd hope would happen. I don't know. I'm not stating that is going to happen. I have no evidence of that. I'm stating that if I were Lucas, I would try to buy it back. And I believe that the economics will support me at this moment to buy it back at a profit. If I were Lucas, and I think he's actually, personally, no evidence of it, just watching his behavior, he's getting more and more involved in Mandalorian, more and more involved in Lucasfilm. He's definitely positioned to be able to do so if he chooses to. Whether at this,
that's the thing. Will he buy it if he doesn't have to? Because I mean, that was kind of his whole thing. If you read the Bob Iger book, he says it pretty much in there. He goes, George wanted to not only sell it but still control it.
That's exactly. And George, this is his baby. His heart was broken. That a lot of people dislike the prequels. I like the prequels. I have issues with episode 1. I love 2 and 3. I really love those movies. So I was, I don't think he should have been pushed to sell his thing because he felt the fans were disappointed. Now the fans were all like, please God, come back, right? Please come back, George. So I can't imagine George, whose entire legacy is creating this universe, isn't thinking, he's still a billionaire. He can buy it back and still leave more than a few $1 billion for his kids. He's fine. So yeah, do I have any evidence of that? Zero. No one has said to me he's going to do it. No one has said to me he's thinking of doing it. I think as a human being who's a fan of his, who's followed him, I have several biographies of him at home. And I think if the man that I understand to be George Lucas, it has to be on his mind.
And then finally, one more question from our friend, the Super Smash Brothers candidates. It says, Mr. Pasha, I would love to know what your take on Mexico, and if you could shed some light on the creation of the character of Annie in the Batman animated series. Thank you.
Okay, well, on the latter, I can't really, because I wasn't involved in Batman animated series. Like I said, I've watched it, so I don't know what the question wants me to answer, because I don't really know anything about the creation of the character, and I honestly don't know what the question is with regard to Mexico. Just the way the question is phrased, maybe you have a better understanding what they're aiming at. What do you think the question
Not offhand.
Is Mexico a television series that's streaming right now, like a show?
I'm unfamiliar with it. I mean, so I can't. Forgive me. I know you paid for that super chat. I just don't have an answer for either of those. So please pardon me for that.
Yeah, I googled it. Super Smash Brothers candidates. I typed in Mexico show. There's a show called Made in Mexico, but that's about all I can find right now.
Well, I will say broadly this. I think that a good thing that is happening is we're having a lot more Latino-based stories. And I actually use the word Latino. I won't use the word Latinx because it's not a real word. And all of my Latino friends and Latina friends hate that word Latinx. But rich white people keep saying you have to use this word. And it's like, well, that's not part of their language. So I'm actually delighted to see Latino shows being developed more and more. I am actually developing a television series set amongst the Moors in Spain. So it's about Ferdinand and Isabella versus the last Muslim Sultan of Spain. So, and the world that happened before before Columbus goes to travel and find the new world. And so those stories, I think there's a very large Latin market that's coming, and it's already here. And I think those are going to enrich our storytelling. And I'm happy to see more of that coming.
Anything that puts John Leguizamo in more movies, I'm all for.
Are we talking like the Pest John Leguizamo?
No, the regular John Leguizamo.
I just want all these beautiful Salma Hayeks out there. Come on, what's wrong with all you people?
I know the Pest has like a cult following, but no, I just think John Leguizamo is great. So I just
Is John Leguizamo in drag though? Can we be?
He was the best part of that fucking movie. I love that movie. I own two copies. Tu Wong Fu. Thanks for everything, Julie Newmar. Chichi DiMaggio. I'm a drag princess. I'm a drag princess.
All right. Well, on that note, I'm going to apologize to all of you. I need to hop and take care of some things here. I thank you all.
Thank you so much for coming in, Kamran. I appreciate it so much.
And so I'd be happy and honored to come back. And if you guys, anyone wants,
absolutely, we'll have you back. Sure.
If you want to do a future just on your individual channels, please let me know and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, the door. You have a standing invite to the High Council. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, guys. All right, take care, everyone. God bless.
Have a good one.
Thank
Take
you.
care, guys.
Have a good one. Thanks for coming.
He might have been our best guest. Seriously, that was.
You say that every week, though, Jeff. But I agree.
Everyone.
Yeah, but no. Who do we have last week? Oh yeah, we had Gary and Jeremy. Jeremy was not our best guest ever. Sorry.
Yeah.
You just gained some points with your old lady, though. So there you go.
Yeah.
I said OL, not old. So I did not call her old. I'm much older than she is.
She's not even in the room, dude. She's in the other room playing her man.
I know, but some women get really upset about that. I just say it just because.
Dude, I've never met somebody so excited to celebrate a birthday. So, if you guys are all coming out to that Fandom Menace meetup, right?
Oh hell yeah! I'm planning on it anyway.
I'm looking.
Working on it.
I'm trying to justify. So I have like where I want to stay kind of picked out. Like I have the reasonable choice, and then I have the you know what, fuck it, we might all die by the end of the year choice.
Go for the fucking. I mean, it's going to be Christmas. You know, the holidays.
Yeah, for like $1,200 for the whole week, I can get a fucking Bellagio fountain room, king fountain room, for the whole flight and room. Like
94 Jack asks who likes George Carlin. We worship at the altar of George Carlin.
Yeah, I call him St. Carlin.
Exactly. I was going to say we St. Carlin. Yes.
The fan here.
I have him right there.
And like now, Classy Canada said the old lady. Now I'm thinking about that Wayne's World 2 joke.
You know, the messed up part is though when everyone says George Carlin, since I was a kid, the first introduction I had to him was Shining Time Station. So I always thought Mr. Conductor on Thomas the Tank Engine, and then Rufus, and then I think of his stand-up comedy, and then Cardinal Click for some reason from Dogma. But anyway, George Carlin's 2 thumbs up on from my end. Love that dude.
All right, mistakes were made.
God. So like I grew up, going to Catholic school, and when I saw that movie as a kid, it just really like stuck with me. It was hilarious, and I was like, maybe there are some things to think about. So Kevin Smith definitely lost a lot of favor with me, but there was a point in time where I thought the dude just was pumping out quality for death.
And Dogma's script, the movie's good, but the script is amazing.
For Dogma?
Yes, it is just amazing.
Melissa Lord, thank you for everything. You don't have to thank me. Thank you. Now, obviously we had a little more show to cover before we just close out all the super chats. I just wanted to ask your guys' take on one final thing. I know we briefly brushed over it, but Jimmy Kimmel has to apologize for using blackface and the N-word in 1996 comedy song. Now, I personally on World Class Bullshit, we've always taken the stance like cancel culture is bullshit. Don't cancel people. I don't like what Jimmy Kimmel says ever. I don't like anything he's contributed to society post The Man Show. Not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Honestly, the second day I lived out here, we went to Hollywood. I saw the line for his show, and I was like, I hate this shit. Like, I just don't like him. But I will say, I don't think he should be canceled for shit he said in 1996 or any of this other stuff. I think at the worst for him, he needs to take a step back. That should be a sobering look at the hypocrisy that he spews on this Disney-owned platform. Other than that, what do you guys think about this Jimmy Kimmel shit?
I think he's a hypocrite, and I think that here's the thing. Like, all these people who scream the loudest about trying to cancel other people have all done this crap over and over again. I don't like the whole cancel. Like, I'm with you there. I don't want to jump on the cancel Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, any of these people sort of bandwagon. But at the same time, like, don't freaking preach to me, and don't be up the ass of the whole woke diversity crowd if you're going to be just as guilty as them. You knew this was wrong when you did it. Jimmy Fallon knew it was wrong when he did it because Ted Danson had already gotten called out for it a few years earlier. Same thing with Jimmy Kimmel. Like, if you're going to, I don't know. How do I put this without people? Well, people are already upset with me over this anyway. We need the better education in the country and in society. We need a lot more people who know what the crap they're even offended by too. That's the other thing. It's like, okay, don't take away something from me without at least letting me have the ability to say, yes, this is offensive. No, this is offensive, especially if it's something done 20 years ago, like these sketches. I've got like 10 takes on this. Sorry, they're all over the place, but this stuff just pisses me off though. Like, I don't want to jump on the everybody gets canceled shit, because how many times do people get canceled for absolutely nothing? How many times do people get canceled for something being taken out of context and they just don't fight about it, or they get Me Too'd or whatever? Like, I hate that, but at the same time, it's like, okay, stop being a hypocrite about it.
I mean, I hate cancel culture. To me, cancel culture is fascism.
Yeah.
I will say this about this whole SJW woke business, and I've said it before and I'm saying it again. Tick, 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 boom.
That's
How long do you think it's going to take for everybody? Sooner or later, everybody's got skeletons in their closet. Just like the whole Mel Gibson thing today I've seen. They're like, oh, he's not going to be in Chicken Run 2. It's like, okay, what's funny is I want to hear every one of these people that are canceling everybody say that they've never, ever, 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 ever said anything racist, even in context. And I mean, like, you're just saying, oh, that so-and-so said this word. You've at some point you've said it. Now, I'm not saying everybody's, bad in some way or has some skeleton in their closet, but I guarantee you there's some point you've done or said something you regret, even if you didn't mean it. What I mean? Now, do I stick up for what Jimmy Kimmel did? No, 1996 is way too late to be being a white guy using the N-word. Sorry.
Exactly.
Not unless you're working in a film and it's in a script and there's context. It just doesn't work that way. I again, though, I don't believe in this cancel culture bullshit. But then again, like Mecca and you guys bring up good points with the whole, practice what you preach shit too. A lot of us aren't out there saying this kind of crap for a reason, because we know we're not fucking perfect. Like quoting Blazing Saddles, exactly.
Context all the time.
Yeah, like quoting Blazing Saddles. I'm guilty of it. Who isn't? But it's
I mean, Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah, Beverly Hills Cop too. Yeah, well, yeah, you can't do an Eddie Murphy bit without it.
Well, we talk about like people's past. Like, okay, for an example, I'll use this. I love The Rock. He's my Hollywood hero or whatever you want to call him. Actually, I like him as a wrestler. But like, are they going to go back into the WWE archives and pull out shit that he said in wrestling promos? Are they going to go, where do we draw the line? Like, it's going to get ugly, because eventually there's going to be the calling for the cancellation of somebody that like everybody seems to love. I'm just wondering where the line is drawn, because like a comedy song. Look, there's a lot of dumb comedy. There's a lot of great comedy. I've seen Dave Attell make really stupid jokes, and I've also listened to him make smart jokes. I've seen him in person. That's why I brought him up. But like, it's a comedy song. I hate Jimmy Kimmel with a passion. I wish he never existed. I could Thanos snap him out of existence. But I don't want him to get canceled because of shit from the past. It's like, look, you have to take into context when everything was created as well. Like Cameron was talking about with Gone with the Wind. It's one of his favorite books and movies, and you have to look at, like, the guy that wrote it didn't know what the future was going to hold. We don't know what the future is going to hold. Hell, what's acceptable last year isn't acceptable this year because the way the internet just ramps everything up. It's like if you're not on the forefront of whatever cutting edge of wokeness, you're going to get called a bigot or whatever. And it's just getting crazy. Like, yeah, people are enjoying the Schadenfreude of watching the they're eating their own type of thing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we always have to keep in mind, where do we draw the lines with this shit? Like, I'm so against the Gone with the Wind disclaimer. I'm so against wanting to put it on Forrest Gump. Come on, that's a movie you could show grade school kids. It's a good story, you know.
You see, they have it on the 2019 kids. Yeah. Did you see they have it on the 2019 Aladdin now? For like, they've got a disclailer. This
well, I think Sky just put it on everything. To be honest,
maybe.
I think they did.
Sky's stupid.
But no, you guys are 100% correct, and I'm not trying to equate racism with what I'm about to say here. But when does it get to a point where they go beyond certain things like that to where they're like, "Oh, Jaws is problematic because that's not the way sharks really act"?
You know what? Then you're going to tell those people to shut the fuck up because
I know you and I will, but what are you going to do when you get to this point when they got the power, dude? That's what I'm trying to say. They've already gotten to, like, you just said it yourself. They already gotten to, like, Gone with the Wind, and they're already after Forrest fucking Gump. It's Forrest Gump.
Well,
Forrest Gump ain't got a racist bone in his body.
Even one step further, when are they going to say, "Oh, all white people, are oppressive and have guilt and therefore need to be rounded up," and whatever. That's where I'm scared it's going.
Forrest Gump's best buddy was Bubba.
Well, look, I'm trying to read these in context or in order.
I'm sorry.
No. I'm not saying to be quiet. I was going to say Ed Mendoza's making a point, though. I wanted to build up to it. They're trying to cancel Jesus Christ, and right now, not even kidding. Look it up. I've seen stuff in the news that you talk about where they're going to draw a line. I think that is where it's going to get too much for people, because I don't care if it's cool to be religious, if you're against it, if you are, whatever. You have the views you want. I'm not here to judge you or even care. Live your life. Be cool. But that is something that's really important, because look at all the stuff that goes on in the country in the name of religion. Once they're going to go up to that, then you're going to have people push back. It's going to get uglier if it goes that route. And I think that's where you can't like push it any further, because you have people that have ingrained beliefs. Some of these people out there that are tearing down statues, they're looking to be accepted. It's the flavor of the week to go be a radical asshole this week. And then the next week, they want to get into fucking My Little Pony, and then they're brewing their own beer. It's like whatever's cool for some of these people. They don't believe shit all the time. They just want to be part of something because they have no identity. And the people that are dying to look for that identity that make entertainment are looking to tear it down. It's just one big game of just destruction derby, and nobody wins. It's not even fun to watch.
They've let too much stupid already have their way. How much more stupid are they going to let go? It's like it's too late. You've opened the floodgates. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to do here anymore as far as like trying to stop it at this point, because there is no stopping. It's already too late. They've already done it. They've edited movies without us knowing it. We're starting to realize this, and it's been happening for years. I mean, it's just getting insane, man. I don't get it. I don't know why they think they got the right to police what we watch and what we consume as consumers, and
because they honestly think that they honestly think that they're not. They honestly think that they are against everything that they're doing. They honestly believe that it goes again. I think it goes with all of this. They've created such a perfect storm of this social conditioning, whether it's intentional or accidental. And now with the lockdowns and everything that's happened, now it's just gotten so out of hand that all these people are just absolutely doing everything that they are against, and they don't even realize it, because the second you try and give them logic or something, or the second you try and give them a piece of history that doesn't go with their narrative, they give you back something completely irrational, completely insane, and they're like, "Oh, you just don't understand." Like, no, I don't. Or they'll like, no, I don't care about your facts. We have to go by how I feel. Like, what? What?
Screw people's feelings. That's all I can say.
No, I know. It's like,
and over, like I said, folks, I'm going to be doing this Joel Schumacher stream over in Jesse's channel in a couple minutes. So we're going to close up the High Council tonight because it's running about 3 hours, a little long. Well, not a little long. It's about
how many more super chats we got to get through yet?
Quite a few. I just wanted to bring up that point because we do wonder. Because remember, folks, you may watch us on the internet or watch our videos, this, that, and the other, buy the books, but we're also people like you. This shit affects us the same way. Like, it'd be nice to be able to say, "Oh, I moved out to Hollywood to buy a mansion and drive a Lamborghini." I moved out here because I was in a relationship, and I don't even have my car here. So I'm not out there living some crazy, California dream. Tom's not in the middle of America, living it up, X, Y, and Z. We're just normal people with this shit. So we're too, like you guys, curious to when this all ends. Where does it stop? How does it affect us? It's stupid, and I don't think anyone's happy with the current climate. I mean, the best thing to do is make fun of The Last of Us 2, which, by the way, folks, on tomorrow night's Wednesday stream, my single solo one, I'll cover The Last of Us 2 then, because like I said, we had Kamran on. He was a fantastic guest. I'm going to try to get in contact with him soon to work out some stuff. But we'll cover The Last of Us 2 tomorrow. So come back tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 Pacific, for Fandom Menace tonight. And we'll poke fun at that game. Before we jump into the Super Chats thing, I want to ask you guys, have you followed any of The Last of Us 2 stuff?
Oh, yeah. It's been hilarious.
Yeah.
I will try Tito's Tacos offer Nave. I'm willing to try any local place that people recommend. I mean, where did I get a sandwich from? I go to Ralph's all the time because it's close. Other than that, and with the virus, the pandemic, I haven't had a chance to try new things. So, our friend Christopher Rickshot says the golden armor Wonder Woman wears is right out of the comics, but yeah, it's a little hokey. I didn't know it was from the comics. I'm not a Wonder Woman comic aficionado, nor really a fan outside of I respect the character and love her in the Justice League cartoons. But I will probably watch this movie eventually because, like a lot of people, Gal Gadot is a very attractive woman to me. And I've watched her in the Fast and Furious. I can watch her in the Wonder Woman films because Fast and Furious is schlocky, but it's fun. Maldus Albert, thank you very much, says there are only 3 Star Wars movies. Change my mind. Well, why would I try to change your mind when you're correct? Culture Casino says, isn't Tom an amazing-looking female comic book writer? What?
You must not have been paying attention. I like totally ruin your mythos in a minute, baby.
Dude, I'm living in my own world at times. I miss half the shit that goes on.
I was like probably partially responsible for that whole face thing that was going on the other night, remember?
Our friend Matthew Fowler, we read yours earlier to Cameron, but we'll read it again because it's in order. Hey, Cameron, nice to know there's same people here in LA. I'm one of them. I think additionally, the Fall of Game of Thrones recruited us. Happy to know you're here. I'm glad he was here too. Silver Phantom X sent us a pair with a cup of coffee. Thank you very much. I could use a cup right now. Let's see. Matt G, thank you again for the super chat sticker of a piece of cake. Dr. Coffinail says Cameron Pasha for the permanent High Council member. Melissa Lord says, asked about how true is Lucasfilm buying it back. But Melissa Lord also says, if Hollywood touches Monster Squad, I will riot alone. No, you won't.
They
Melissa.
tried.
Melissa, you won't riot alone. I'll join you. Because even though the Monster Squad is a lesser version of the Goonies to me, it's still a really good film, and I really like it.
Yeah, I love Monster Squad.
I think that they were going to do it for a while, and it just never got off the ground. But yeah,
They couldn't. They'd have to change too much.
Why would you touch it? Because kids' movies today are... I don't really care. Either way, I'm an adult. I can watch the movies from when I was a kid. But kids' movies today are so like... That's why it, I think, did so much money. Because it was like the Goonies. It was when you put these kids in these situations where, like, as a kid, you wanted to be on the great adventure. It's not about Oprah and Mindy Kaling and Reese Witherspoon talking to you in the middle of a field while fucking James... who plays Captain Kirk now? It's Chris Pine. While Chris Pine plays your dad. Like, nobody cares about A Moment or A Wrinkle in Time. That's why it failed, Brie Larson. Because it's a stupid movie. Kids don't want to watch some preachy crap with boring characters. Kids want to go on an adventure. They want to be treated like adults. They want to be talked up to. They don't want to be talked down to. That's why the Goonies is classic, because they talk like adults. It's funny, They're going holy shit every 5 minutes and this and that. That's why stuff like that will stand the test of time in the Monster Squad to a lesser degree in terms of its appeal, because it was a flop. I looked it up. I liked the movie, but it was not the hit that other films were. But Melissa, you won't be alone. Like I said, I will defend that one with you. It's a good movie.
Chris who? I don't know who you're talking about. There's only one Kirk.
Exactly. And he would do himself too.
I would totally do myself all night long, probably 3-4 times, maybe even once in the morning before I kick myself out of bed.
My favorite was that whole set phasers to stunning thing. That was my favorite meme of turning him into a woman.
Yeah. He didn't look bad as a chick. I got to give him...
He looked the best of, like, Harrison Ford looked weird as a woman. Mark Hamill looked a lot like a woman, so it was just uncomfortable to see Luke Skywalker like that. But Captain Kirk was... Because I think of Captain Kirk as like this, old school, masculine hero of the Starship Enterprise. To see him turn into a woman, I was like, I hate to say it, but he looks like an actual convincing woman, so...
He had that very, like... girl next door ish meets the bad girl kind of look going on. Definitely.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead, Mecca.
Oh no, I was just agreeing.
Dr. Coffindale says if they even made half-ass Star Wars films where Luke was alive and not being a Jake, it would be like printing money. The thing is, Dr. Coffindale, fans are very forgiving with Star Wars and their favorite geek culture stuff. There's a limit. I think it's just too late. You can't go back, because until the DC and Marvel movies bring in multiverse and all this other stuff that's been in publications for decades, until it becomes a standard in the film industry, the genre films like that, I don't think it'll catch on. I mean, look at how long it took for them to do a Rocket Raccoon and Groot, or to bring in a shared universe, even something that's so basic that everyone tried to copy. Now, a shared universe, while the US universe was a thing back then, it wasn't, and the Universal Monsters as well, but it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is now. So it's going to take some time. And maybe Dr. Coffindale's, hopefully we're all still around then, maybe one day, when everyone accepts that, they can do a what if Star Wars film where Luke Skywalker wasn't the bitch that he was in The Last Jedi. Then again, it's
well, it's funny, they wanted to copy everything Star Wars, but they forgot to copy Obi-Wan Kenobi when it came to Luke Skywalker, though.
They forgot the heroism that George Lucas and the crew created for these characters.
Yeah, it's a soulless cash grab. We all know it now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Modalicious, thank you very much. Says if they were allowed to tear down our heroes and our history and our mythology while we stand aside and watch and do nothing, they have already won. Those are strong words, but I agree. What is the old analogy? They came for this person and I said nothing. They came for that person, I said nothing, and then they came for me and no one spoke up. That's the thing
that's why we're here. I mean, that's what the Fandom Menace is all about. That's what most of our YouTube channels have kind of been built on. But again, I just keep asking myself the question is, once you've allowed crazy to do what they want, well, how much farther can you allow it to go? Because they're just going to say, well, you let them do it. And that's the thing. We've gotten to this point where one person can stop everything. You know, what the fuck are we doing here, folks? It's like one person gets butt hurt. Oh, we better not do this. Like, we used to be a lot better than this. It used to be like, well, fuck that person.
I like that idea.
It's like, that's their problem. You know, that sounds like a you problem, Karen.
Like, being independent on behalf of everybody else anyway.
Well, the thing is with about what the Fandom Menace does, like, I honestly have no interest in Gone with the Wind, have never seen it, and I don't really want to watch it, but I am very against what they're doing to it because it's a piece of film history. Any film, even if I don't give a shit. Even if they try it with a movie like It's Pat, I would be like, you know what? It's Pat is not disrespecting of X, Y, and Z. It's a shitty comedy from 1994. Let it live the life that it lived. Nobody even cares.
It's Pat is very, very, very faithful to the source material.
Oh yeah, well,
in fact, it answers the question we always wanted to know, kind of.
I'm just trying to I try to give examples of films I hate, and that's not The Last Jedi because it's low hanging fruit, and It's Pat is just.
Hey, I got It's Pat on fucking Blu-ray. I don't care. It's one of the worst, best movies ever made.
If we're ever together in a location where we can just not do anything, just watch movies, convince me that it's not. Convince me to watch it again. Let's see if you can.
It's a horrible fucking movie. You'll never like it.
but I respect Dave Foley, and that's
the thing. It's one of those movies like Mecca gets it. Mecca gets it. Like, she loves schlocky movies that are just so fucking bad they don't know they're bad. Them are the best ones. Like the Sharktopus, they know what they're doing, whatever. Those are okay, whatever. But she knows what I'm talking about. Like the Plan 9 from Outer Space type movies. I love those kind of movies.
All I remember about It's Pat is that the band Ween is in it.
But Pat doesn't have a ween, so is that saying something?
Up next, we had our. Oh God, dude, Julia Sweeney. The only thing I liked her in was
rest in peace.
Pulp Fiction. Is she dead?
Yeah, she passed away a few years ago.
Really? Holy shit!
Yeah, she had cancer. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sad. I never liked her work outside of Pulp Fiction because she's what's his face's girlfriend for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Wait, Julia Sweeney's not dead.
Oh, she isn't? I thought she
No, did. I'm looking her up right now. Like, when did she die? No, she's alive.
Who the hell died then? Who am I thinking of then?
I don't know. She's the same age as my mom.
Who was it then? Somebody died not too long ago.
Well, anyway, our friend Louis the Plank says, love the show. Louis, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you. Space Monkey 0899 has 2. He says, Christians, Jess, and Muslims getting along? Oh my God.
Maybe I'm thinking of Jan Hooks or something like that.
She might be. She might have.
She is. Yeah. Maybe that's who I was thinking of. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's okay. I liked her a lot because she was on Third Rock from the Sun as Harry's girlfriend. Yeah, she passed away in 2014. I knew that one actually.
That's who I was. Yeah, that's who I was mistaken it with. My bad. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I mean,
I'm usually good at that shit. No, fuck that one. She did have cancer, though. Yeah, she did. Okay, thank you, Dr. So I must have just mixed the two together. That's what happened.
Up next, I just wanted to touch on Space Monkey's other one though. Yeah, you are right. I mean, people get along from different walks of life. Who'd have thunk it? That's how the world has worked up until recently. Don't let people tear us apart, folks. Look for the similarities, not the differences.
Mm-hmm.
Terminator versus RoboCop. Space Monkey 0899 says in regards to my comment about the big crossover films, dude, I don't even like RoboCop that much. Sign me up. I'm there. Our friend Action Khan, thank you very much. He said, Married with Children, writer Michael Moy pitched a show called No Ma'am. The way the exec looked at him caused him to realize this time was done and he was holding up traffic for other writers. Do some writers feel this way? Now, Kamran did address that one, Action Khan. I just wanted to read that again. So, we can make good on all the stuff, but thank you very much. And Tom, off the top of your head, you too, Mecca, can you guys tell me what No Ma'am stands for? Or just the man part?
Men against... it's from Married with Children.
Yeah.
I say you'd probably know it better than me, Mecca, but damn it.
It's been like probably 10 years since I've seen Married with Children.
Men against angry.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go. Don't read the chat because I'll tell you. I know it off the top of my head.
Just say it then, because I'm not gonna get it.
Men against Amazonian masterdom. That's
that's
what
what
it stands for. Because I'll never forget. Do you guys remember E! True Hollywood Stories?
Yeah.
They did one on Married with Children when I was like, it was like early 2000s. I was hooked. I watched that thing like 10 times. So they actually say it in the whatchamacallit. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. All right. Master Hood, excuse me. I thought it was Master Dumb. So there we go. So up next, we have our friend, the Waltman 4. Thank you very much. He says, how long before video game worlds get their Rise of Skywalker moment and have a teacher in film college with nonstop talk about Blade Runner? Let's see. So how long before the video game world gets their Rise of Skywalker moment and had a teacher in film college who nonstop talked about? Oh, okay. I get what you're saying. I don't know when they'll get their Rise of Skywalker moment. I don't think the video game world can handle.
Well, if The Last of Us is The Last Jedi,
yeah,
then I guess we're a few years away. And what would it be then, though? I don't know. Because, I mean, I guess...
Over. They said that they're not making a third one. Is what I...
No, I know. It doesn't have to be in the same franchise. That's the thing. I mean, that scares me because then that means that... Does that mean, like, the next GTA is going to be like Rise of Skywalker? Oh, shit.
I'm covering The Last of Us 2 stuff, but I swear if GTA 6 goes woke... Every day, I will put out some piece of content bitching about it. Probably not every day, but I'll be upset because it's my favorite series. And just to watch like that fall, the epitome of like the anti-wokeness, the make fun of everything, common decency was whatever. It was like I don't want to say the Howard Stern show of it because Howard Stern is hit and miss with me, but Grand Theft Auto really made some poignant satire about society. Whatever
it's
era
like one of the last things we got left, actually.
It really is. Please, Rockstar, if you hear this, don't fucking sell out. Look, they made $1 billion in like a single day off GTA 5. You'll never go hungry. Don't pander to these people. There's no money in it because they'll give you your virtue points on Twitter and on social media, but they're not the same people that are playing those double experience points weekends and spending thousands of dollars on the stupid shark cash cards to upgrade their shit. So don't pander to those people. Remember who pays your bills, not these idiots.
You want to do twice that on the launch of GTA 6? Put twice as much of everything in it. Twice as many boobs, twice as many explosions, twice as you get me. Yes.
You had me at twice as many boobs because 2 is never enough.
Well, yes. That's why I don't know why you don't. That's my favorite joke. My favorite joke in Dumb and Dumberer when he's like, "Show us your boobs." Yeah, both of them.
Anyway,
there's a few moments in it. I get where you're coming from, though. Yeah.
Look, that's another one we'll watch together, and I'll tell you why I feel the way I feel.
No, I totally understand it because it is not a great movie by any means. I get it.
Up next, our friend Melissa Lord says, "Hey Jesse, love heart. Yeah, I got my super chat. Jeff, LOL, JK, love y'all. We love you too, Melissa Lord. Thank you very much for patience for waiting us to get to those, and I'll tell Jesse you said hi again." Now, Infinite Wonder, your next super chat after this one has kind of sold me on Warhammer. He says, Kadia stands is in reference to 40K. Kadia is the second most well-defined world in the human empire. And this is what sold me. And I want to check it out, honestly. It says, Kadia, the planet broke before the Guard did. That sounds pretty badass to me. So is there a way to get into this world without buying the figurines? Is there a book? Is there a manual or something like that? It's not about not wanting to buy stuff to support it. I just don't have the time to sit down and do tabletop gaming, and it's going to be a long time before I have that kind of time.
Yes,
so,
there you go, Captain Robert April. GTA 6, twice the sex, twice the violence, same low price.
Saints Row is really good for that too.
I've sunk too much money into that. But Infinite Wonder, I took a picture of that. If you can email us, worldclassbs@mail.com. Like I said, outside of playing the game, I'm willing to watch. I watched, what is that, a Star Taste or something on YouTube. That was fun. People sold me on the world, and the McFarlane toys look pretty cool. So you can make a fan out of me, because that sounds pretty badass right now.
I guess there's some books. It sounds like, if I'm reading the chat right. Yep, 40K books. Tons of novels.
Okay, there's novels.
Comic books, games, etc.
Oh, there's comics. I love comics. Our friend Chuck E. Cheese says, Uck Disney and Uck Lucasfilm. Yes, Uck them both. And no, Chuck E. Cheese, I'm not making fun of you. I get it. YouTube has downgraded our rating system because of the podcast proper. So we, have to deal with that kind of stuff. And you're like, really, guys? Yeah. Yes. I showed the guy.
I screwed it up and said, I think, the F word in the first 15 minutes. But once we get past there, we're all right.
Yeah, I'm not saying it to chastise you at all. It's just,
I do it on. I fucking
honestly, Tom. It picked two specific videos, and they were just the podcast. So it's nothing else that's ever been on the channel. So yeah,
but it's my fault. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not your fault. Dude, you know it's your fault getting Kamran on the show and making international high counts possible. Yes, it's your fault that we've had great shows.
Is that your hint that I should try and get another one together?
Sure, if you want. I mean,
it's about that time. I think.
I think you don't blame anybody, blame me. I drag everything down.
I would like a monthly one if possible.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Like monthly would be probably perfect.
And then it's going to be really awesome though, because when the three of us hung out in Vegas together, the High Council was in that weird post Jeremy, Ethan was still there type thing. And by the way, somebody who asked if Cecil's ever been on the show, Cecil's been on more episodes of the High Council than I can count.
I say isn't he kind of like the original?
Yeah, he's the original
Bill Murray. Yeah.
Well, a lot of people don't know this, but the first High Council wasn't Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers. It was Ethan, myself, and Jeremy from the Quartering. That's the first episode. So if you can go back and find that the Quartering was a member of the High Council for the very first one. We also tried out your boy Zach. Nurkish was on for one episode, but it was always like a rotation thing. And then Jeremy fit, and it was just this perfect, whatever. So I know he's off playing Mario Kart tonight. He can enjoy it. I hope you die on Rainbow Road. Rainbow Road.
I can't bitch because Jeremy came when I asked him nicely, and I don't ask him to do too.
Dude, I give Jeremy shit. He's a friend. When all this stuff with the comic went down, who was on the phone? Him and Gary were like, "Hey, come on Friday Night Tights and tell your story to the audience." So those guys, got a friend in me forever. So I'm cool with them. I give Jeremy shit because he can take it. Ned418 says it's a good thing shit hit the fan for Hollywood. They're trying to milk Japan now that comics are running their course from their stupidity. Though a train wreck would be fun to watch. I do like a good train wreck, Ned, and I also have noticed there's an alarming rate of bringing in Japanese stuff and then altering it to meet the American standards. Like if you're going to bring it in, bring all of it, good and bad. Make it weird, make it funky, make it sexy. I don't care, but just make it what it is. Don't change it, because if you want to change it, why do you even bring it here in the first place? That's my whole stance. Let's see. Also, our friend, the Super Smash Bros. Candidates, we read his. He says, Mr. Pasha, I would love to know what your take on Mexico is, and if you could shed some light on the creation of the character Annie in the Batman animated series. Thanks. Super Smash Bros. Candidates, sorry he didn't get a better answer. If I ever have Russell back on, though, Russell did work on Batman in the animated series. That would be an awesome. He was a great guest. I'd love to have him back on. I'd like to have him and Kamran on together, and two guys worked in the industry, stuff like this, blah blah blah. It'd be cool. Albatross Flight says, as a kid, I always called Two-Face toothpaste.
I like that.
Raging Rhino says, hail the High Council, hail Kamran. It's awesome hearing someone from within the industry that's not woke as hell, or not a woke asshat, excuse me. Hail Tom and Mecha too.
Oh, hail.
Hail.
Albatross Flight says, this Pasha guy is my hero. He was awesome. Train Lover says, Dave Chappelle was an example where racism did not exist. His show was funny as hell. I wish Comedy Central had the balls to just air season 2, all of Chappelle's show. Don't even tell people. We're just putting it on in prime time. Who gives a shit about episodes of what is that show? The Slacker one where they're high all the time.
Workaholics.
Workaholics. Take a day off of Workaholics. Just air all of Chappelle Show. That's your greatest achievement. That and South Park are the two greatest things that ever come from that channel.
They have run marathons from time to time, but yeah, I'm sure after a while here now they won't.
But I think they should do it right now.
I'm
right
glad I got it on DVD.
I bought them too. Chappelle Show has so much to say. And you know what? Key and Peele is a lesser version of Chappelle Show. But even then, they had some stuff to say too. If you know what, instead of putting your icons to whatever, showcase black comedy and showcase Chappelle Show. It makes you uncomfortable, and that's the point. Good comedy should make you go, should I laugh at this? Yes, I should, because it's fun.
Well, I said this, I don't remember what show it was on last week, and I don't think it was here, but I know you'll get what I'm saying, Jeff, when I say this. What the fuck happened? Because 30 years ago, Eddie Murphy was the #1 actor in the world. I mean, you had people like Danny Glover, you could all kinds of people like that were star. What happened? I don't get it. It was like we're acting like we've never allowed black people to do anything before. It's strange. I don't get it.
Well, Tom, to not go down the rabbit hole, but it's all about the firsts. You're trying to achieve things again after. Look, I hate to break it to these people, but black actors have won Oscars. Michael Jackson is the highest selling single.
Michael Jackson, for Christ's sake. Yeah, come on.
I'm just saying, like,
Whoopi Goldberg, yeah,
he was weird, but I'm just saying, like, Michael Jackson. Look at you want to talk about people real quick about breaking down race barriers. The fucking one of the executives from CBS, MTV didn't want to play Michael Jackson in rotation because he was black, and that guy said, "We're going to pull some other band if you don't play Michael Jackson." That was right before Thriller came out, and look what happened. One of the biggest albums ever. I think if you adjusted, I think not adjusted, but I think the Eagles' greatest hits might be the biggest. But for a single guy, it's Michael Jackson.
There's a bunch of arguments on that.
Million albums sold.
Yeah, there's a bunch of arguments on that because before, whatever it was, 1990 something, they didn't actually keep track of that shit digitally or whatever through like a system to where they just went by whatever the record. Rob knows this better than I do, but they just went by the numbers the record stores told them.
Now, Shogun Orta, thank you very much. He says, right, can't replace racism with racism. Agreed. You got to treat everybody of every color the same. Good or bad. It makes you an asshole. But if you treat everyone like shit, then it doesn't make you racist, just an asshole.
Well, and Terry Landers brings up, Coming to America. The one thing most people don't realize is that cast is almost 100% black. It's written by almost a complete, I think Eddie Murphy and his writing partner are both black. I think his writing partner is black too. I think it was. So, I mean, outside of the director and a few ancillary parts, it's basically primarily a black movie. But guess what? Nobody ever calls it a black movie.
It's just a movie.
Yeah.
It's a great movie. It's better than Black Panther. If you're like, oh, I have to have if somebody comes to me and says, Jeff, I need to watch a story about an African guy coming to you're going to America and doing shit. I'd be like, well, technically Black Panther doesn't go to America, but I'm going to still tell you to watch Coming to America if you want to have a good time.
And that's why I brought that up is because, yeah, a couple of years ago, people are bringing that up all the time. That's where, yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I miss, dude, you realize how much I love Eddie Murphy. I miss those days. I'm hoping that, he has that big comeback. Our friend Drake is 6 says, Mammy had dignity and self-respect, unlike Step and Fetch It, vile, ugly stereotype characters. I've never seen, like I said, full transparency, never seen Gone with the Wind, but I'll fight for it to not have that stupid disclaimer because it doesn't matter for society. The Lord of Salt, thank you very much, says, they're changing definitions of words like racism, and the other day, if you Google, it was changed again. They're trying to muddy the waters. That's where, with a lot of stuff, why I get mad at something like a Ghostbusters 2016, because, maybe the movie came and went quickly and people didn't like it, but in the Google search, Ghostbusters got you Ghostbusters 2016. And something so small like that means really nothing to what we're going through right now. It took a while to get that worked out. So Lord of Salt, when they do stuff like that, I'm with you. It does muddy the waters, and it makes it's like playing dirty pool. It's like, you have all these things in your favor. It's not fair because yes, words, languages evolve, but all of a sudden things evolve so quickly that it never. Remember, or what is it, the scientific process where you come up with a thesis and it has to, or a hypothesis, and you have to bring it in front of people to question it and challenge it, and they make it science that way. We're just changing language instantly because I feel X, Y, and Z. You need to look at the etymology of these things and break it down to if we should change it, why we should change it. Are we really changing, basic words? Stuff like that is stupid. That's where there's a lot of levels of stupidity, like at the academic level, that baffles me because it was cool or it was accepted for years. No new research, no new anything has come out to change the accepted form of this word or whatever you want to say. But all of a sudden, because of the social climate, we're changing it as not to offend and to show our bias. And that's where I have an issue with all this stuff. If things get better, if we get past like this cooking method presents X, Y, and Z problem, and this one doesn't, and we evolve that way, cool. But racism, to change that word to cater to whatever is going on right now, is bullshit, and I can't abide by it. Escamanofono says, sup? What's up, Escamanofono? Thank you very much. Edmondodo says they're trying to cancel Jesus Christ right now. Not even kidding, look that up. We did address that one, Edmondodo. I just wanted to bring that up earlier. I do think that's the one thing that people will not be able to break down. That, people have religious views ingrained in their families. If you just disagree with them, fine, whatever. But people will fight for that kind of shit. There's been wars about it, so that's where it'll get really ugly. Mr. Media Theory says there is a petition to take Split off Netflix from some Aussies on Twitter. Time to say no to this woke religion, no to a Demolition Man future. Thankfully, we don't have that one because toilet paper. Well, we almost did. Toilet paper's back though, but I'm with you. Split. I don't think you should take off Split. Not with you, but I'm aware of that. Split might be offensive to some people, but you know what? It's a great character study of a guy with multiple personalities. And M. Night Shyamalan needed a comeback hit, and he had one, thankfully, with that. Well, technically the Visit, but just I hate to say it, but just tell these people to fuck off. Go worry about something else. If you live in Australia, earlier in the year, you had real problems. Australia was on fire. They had that huge brush fire. Jesse had friends from Australia in town. They were concerned about their country existing. Don't worry about a fucking movie being a problematic thing in 2020. You know what? Just remove yourself from all these situations and stop. That's all I can say is just get over yourselves, people. Not to you, Mr. Media Theory, but people that want to look. If there's a thing on Twitter that they want to take Split off Netflix because it's offensive.
What?
Yeah, James McAvoy's movie. I know you know what it is.
Probably because doesn't he play one of his roles? Isn't it black or something like that?
No, I think it was because it portrays mental.
Oh, that too, yeah.
He plays roles, and some of his characters are women, and some of them are gay, I think. But I don't think he plays anyone that's ostensibly different or different.
Okay, I couldn't remember. It's been a while since I've seen it.
I mean, it's honestly a really.
But then again, I seen the second one too, or third one, but.
If you learn stuff, because if you know anything about multiple personalities, people who have true multiple personalities typically do have, like myriad personalities, more than one. It's obviously stylized. It's a horror film. It's taking liberties, but there's nothing about it that's shitting on anybody with mental illness. I mean, we're getting to a point where the only kind of movie you're going to be able to make is one where you just sit a black person, a white person, not even a white person, a black person, a woman, a gay person, and every kind of person in a room, and they just sit and don't say anything because anything else would be cultural appropriation and offensive and misrepresentation of culture and blah, it's stupid.
And by the way, Caleb in the chat says Split takes place in an alternate universe where people have superpowers. People should not take this movie at face value as a perfect representation of mentally ill people. This should go without saying. That's why I brought up. This should go without saying. Come on.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Like when you're just a little bit ago talking.
Warning may contain peanuts.
I do. That
is the slippery slope that has led us to now. That was the moment in our history where we said, "Fuck common sense. Let's take care of the morons," and it's all been downhill from there.
Yeah, you're pretty much right there about it. That's pretty much what I was going to kind of say. I was going to bounce off of the whole, Gone with the Wind thing. And that's what, I loved about Andre's editorial because he was saying the same thing I was thinking is all these warning labels do is tell you that you're stupid. Or that at least they tell us that they think we're stupid.
Yeah, that we need to be babied and treated like babies.
Well, the funny thing is they won't listen to what, there's a lot of intelligent conversation out there, but they won't listen to it because it doesn't agree with their thoughts or their views. So they, you could have, a scholar come in and say, this is why this, and this doesn't work. And they show this research. I don't really like where you're going though, so I'm going to stop listening. That's the problem. People just don't listen anymore because they don't want to listen because they don't think they have to. And that's why you have the joke, like a Karen in the world, like, oh, I'm going to talk to your manager. Like, look, real life doesn't have that kind of a manager. Like you need to figure out your own way. So I don't like where things are going. I know every week it's like, oh, we're talking about how bad things are because shit keeps getting worse each week. It gets dumber and dumber. Thankfully, we can poke fun at it and have fun at the expense of these idiots. And I hope Split gets, an extra million views and James McAvoy and everyone that gets a royalty check gets a bigger royalty check. Like that's how you fight stupidity. It's like you reward good stuff. Do you consider Split good? I do. I think it was worth buying on Blu-ray. So
there you go.
Watch.
There you go, Mecca. There's another T-shirt for you. Sorry, Karen. Life doesn't have a manager.
Yeah.
Melissa Lord, thank you very much again. She says, Jeff and Jesse, love y'all. 3 is the second best Star Wars movie. It's a very good film, and I would put it in my list at 4. Where would you guys rank it? Jesse included.
Which one?
Episode 3. Where do you rank it?
Episode 3, in terms of what I think the quality is or what I would like to watch.
Wait, of what's on screen, of all the Star Wars films, where do you just rank it? Simple, like 1 through whatever. 1 through 9.
There's a difference between what I think is the best, the better ones, and which one I like better. Are you asking what I like better?
What do you like better? Yes.
Oh, that's going to be... 3 is actually going to be pretty low for me.
Oh,
3 is going to be like the last one before the Disney Star Wars, honestly.
fair enough.
But, as far as I'm concerned, I might even like Rogue One. I might even enjoy watching Rogue One better than
3.
Revenge. Yeah, I just enjoy watching it. I'm sorry, I know it's like the best one of the prequels. I'm not going to fight that. I'm not the person to ask because I really don't like that movie.
Tom.
No, I get where Jesse's coming from. But me, I'm one of those where my likability and the technicality of a movie, it sometimes is separate, but not very often. In this case, it probably falls in about 4th place behind the original trilogy. It's definitely the best of the prequel trilogy, that's for sure.
Mecca?
I think I'm gonna agree with Jesse here. I can watch of the prequels. I can watch episode 1 probably the most, just because of the Weird Al song, and that's the one I've seen the most. But I fall asleep during 2 and 3, so I don't know. I kind of put that maybe as the second of the prequels behind the original trilogy. So, yeah.
Hey, different strokes. I will say that I did see episode 3 on 2 different continents. That's how much I liked it. So.
Oh yeah,
No, and I can't
why people like it. It's got its really good moments. It's just I know that there's something about there's just some long bit in there that I just kind of zone out during or fall asleep during, and there's just something about it in the beginning that just kind of doesn't hit with me.
So let's see. Up next, we had Edmund Dodo, who says, "Would you guys ever have Robert Frank on?" Turns out he's a huge Star Wars and wrestling guy, and he hated the Disney trilogy as well. I think Anna had him on. I have an open, if people are interesting and want to be on the show, yeah, I'm about.
If not, get a hold of me or Jeff. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, we love having interesting people on to talk about stuff. Yes, we like to talk about geek culture and Star Wars, but as you can see, the show has never been strictly, we're talking about a Star Wars and going. It's kind of been Star Wars and then what's going on in popular culture, and now what's going on in culture. Because when we started the show a couple years ago, no one ever thought that the world would be burning the way it is now. So, Robert Frank, of course. I know Anna has a connection. Tom, if you want to make that happen when we come back from our little 4th of July thing, our hiatus, cool.
I could try, yeah. Robert Frank, I'll do my best.
Rosetta Allen says, I love you guys. Rosetta, thank you for everything you do. Let's see. We also have our friend Trencher1375 who says, yes, there are hundreds of novels in Warhammer. Well, folks, if you have a recommendation, never mind. Space Monkey 0899 says 40K starts with Horus Hearsay. Okay, there we go. I'm going to check it out. I got a flight to Cincinnati coming up. Maybe if I'll Amazon a book or something real quick. Diego Flores, thank you very much. He says, don't start with Horus Hearsay. Read about 40K proper and Lexicanum, and then after you understand, then read about Horus Hearsay. Okay, fine. I'll take that approach because the last thing I want to do is say I'm going to get into this and then not understand it and go, it sucks. So there we go. I'll try Lexicanum. Sorry. Lord Ian Malcolm says, I don't need jokes to make me laugh. I just need to look in the mirror. Aw. But you're Jeff Goldblum. You're glorious. Genero Genesis says, hail. Given everything they've done with Western entertainment, which is ruin it, why do you think they want to change anime? Because it's giving people what they want. Entertainment. And they're changing it for control and the weird whims of the West, if you want to put it like that. I don't know if you guys are Mecca and Tom are big anime fans, but I don't think you should alter it. Just bring it here the way it is. The most I would do is change this, have an English track so people can listen to it.
Well, a lot of them do. A lot of them do have that, but what happens a lot of the time with anime is they'll come in and redub it wrong, incorrectly, just to add.
Didn't they used to re-edit them a lot of the time too?
Yeah. Dragon Ball Z is censored.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely entitlement for them to come in and say you like another country has to bend to our ways on their product. I think those are the most disgusting people who want to change anime, and I don't even like anime. I play like the anime video games and stuff, but like, yeah, seriously, don't tell another culture how to do their thing. Like that's just so selfish, so entitled.
Right. Well, and
trying to change Japanese made anime, isn't that just cultural appropriation if they're trying to
yeah,
Yeah.
if you think about it,
Yeah.
I mean,
I hate the most.
Exactly.
I mean, I can take it or leave it. Sometimes I'm not like a huge fan, but I love animation in general. So there's some that I've seen that I liked, but my issue with it is when they try to transport it over to another genre or another like to live action or whatever, kind of like, you know, Jesse was getting at there. When they try to either culturally appropriate it or, you know, to me, it's like it's already kind of its own thing when it's, you know, as it is. And when you have to use CGI and actually basically animate it in 3D to make a movie, how is that just, why not keep it in animation? I don't get it. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Maybe that makes sense to some people. Maybe it doesn't to others, but yeah.
I'm with you on that part. I'm not the most, like, I don't really have any anger towards, what is that film with Scarlett Johansson? Ghost in the Machine? No, Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Machine's a terrible movie from the 90s. Anyway,
Ghost in the Shell, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. You've seen Ghost in the Machine, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
It's got a gnarly death, though, where the guy gets microwaved or whatever. That's cool as shit. Other than that, we'll talk about it another time. Rosetta Allen has a great point. She says, can we just go back to making fun of everyone? This whole woke PC culture is annoying as all get out.
Yeah, Mel Brooks is rolling in his grave and he's not even dead yet. So
I will be really bummed out when he passes away.
I will fucking cry.
Yeah. I've never really cried for a celebrity. The most upset I was when Stan Lee passed away, because it was like somebody texted me like, Stan Lee died. I went, no, and my whole day just like fucking deflated. I was like,
I can't say I haven't. So yeah.
No judgment. Uskamanafono, thank you very much. He says they are changing definitions because they are losing arguments.
Mhm.
Yeah, agreed. They're changing
Very
definitions
true.
now.
Oh, of course.
Like even on Google and stuff, they're muddying the waters.
Of course you are. Can't win an argument? Change the definition. Easiest tactic in the book.
This is.
What is this new definition?
I don't have it pulled up.
Stupid, and more stupid.
Probably. Our friend this is says The Last of Us 2 story sucks. I was never going to give them my money, but I've heard that it sucks. So you folks, you vote with your wallets. I will just let you know the hypocrisy and the double standards of everyone that reviews the game. And
Actual quote I read because I read a review of it and it got me so incensed that I might actually make a video. Actual quote was somebody saying, to paraphrase, they were basically like, yeah, they went off this whole thing about how they were just in love with the game. They went off this whole bit about how the gameplay sucks, how it took them like 5 to 6 hours to get used to the motion, just the actual movement of the character, and it was still jerky and difficult the entire way through. And they're like, yeah, and the characters do things that don't make any sense and this, that, but let's let any of these little perfectly valid criticisms of a video game that you're reviewing get in the way of my perfect score because of all the virtue that's packed into it. Like, do you hear yourself? You're literally just like the circles. You're literally just saying, let's not worry about all the things my job is to critique. Let's just worry about how great this is for virtue.
can I get a copy of that article? Because I want to make fun of it tomorrow night.
Yes.
Escovedo Photo also says now anime translators adding words like misogyny and toxic masculinity when it's not needed. Now that pisses me off. These fucking translators, you need to get an approved script from Japan and translate it. Yeah, localization is important on certain things, but like even Nintendo used to go a little too far, like when they would wipe out religious symbols or things that could be offensive to people. Like I don't like that. That actually really pisses me off.
I wonder if that was any pandering to like the French market. The French doesn't allow public displays of religious symbols and stuff.
I didn't know. Nintendo in Europe is weird though, because Sega had a much bigger presence in the first. Anyway, we'll talk about that off there. But yeah, it was no. But I meant like this anime translating stuff, adding it in, like unless the story calls for it. Fuck.
It's just disrespectful to the actual work.
Yeah. And then finally, our friend Rosetta Allen, thank you very much. She says, Jesse, the unofficial extra panelist who has to put her 2 cents in.
Yeah.
Love my girl to death. Jeff, you're awesome. Mecca, darling, and Tom, my teddy bear.
Love you too, Rosetta. Your hubby's been trolling me on Twitter a bit. It's cute.
Yeah, call him.
So, folks, I think we have reached the end, the natural conclusion of the High Council. It's been another fun week. It was nice to have last night off, but I saved a lot of that energy for tonight. So if you want more energy, you want more from me, and a lot of people do, check out Jesse's stream over on Mindless Entertainment. It's the Joel Schumacher celebration of his life. We're going to look at his filmography, talk about Batman, anything you guys want to cover.
We're going to have a great time. Also, unrelated, I'm going to give you guys a little sneak preview of what I was just working on. So.
Oh, yeah, that's exciting.
Yes, I'm locked in the bathroom working on a fun new project. Unrelated to nerddom, but fun, and hope you guys like it.
And then we had one more from our friend Lord Ian Malcolm, who says Jeremy's above average was the inspiration for Abby's character design.
When I lock myself in the bathroom, there's always Coke involved.
I think Jeremy's above average, something or other inspires anything at all.
Oh,
I know somewhere Jeremy just got an anti-erection. Whatever that is,
he looked at Leslie Headland. That's what happened.
Yeah. So I feel like every time I make fun of Jeremy, somewhere in the world, he just sucks up a little.
Next week we'll be back here, folks. I got some more videos coming out, so make sure you guys check those out. We do have a secondary GMPC archive channel for the World Class Bullshitter streams because of the YouTube algorithm kind of penalizing us. Not moving the High Council there yet or anything like that.
You said penal.
I did. My favorite Beavis and Butthead joke is get the hell out of the cockpit. You said it. But Tom, where can everyone find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on Midnight's Edge After Dark, and roaming around wherever. There's this rumor going around that I don't sleep, so who knows where you'll find me.
In your bed.
Dude, you're going to turn out like that kid that was the inspiration for A Nightmare on Elm Street. We'll find you dead in your closet with a coffee maker.
Can't sleep. Clown will eat me.
That might happen. Tom and I.
What did she say? I didn't hear her.
Say it again.
Oh, I said I'm just waiting one day to roll over one morning, expecting to see Jeff and just see Tom instead.
He's like, he said I could stay.
I'll be over
on the futon.
Yeah, I'll be on the futon working on the next video. Like, yeah, hey guys, yeah, just sorry.
He's busy.
Wake up and make Tom deaf forever.
No,
so,
I wouldn't do that.
Thank you, Force User Mecca. You did tell everyone where they can find you, correct?
Where am I?
No, you
I didn't ask. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to just close the show and not ask you. Mecca, where can everyone find you on the internet?
My channel, and I'm on Twitter constantly, and I don't remember anymore. And I've been punching people in Wii boxing and shit. I don't know. Here, there, and everywhere.
Yes, we're training for EFAP. One day we'll
maybe the next International High Council.
Honestly, when we reach 200,000 subscribers, we're doing a 24-hour stream, and I'm going to pick like a day where we can have a High Council episode, and then it transitions into a million other things. So we'll have fun. But folks, you can find me here on the channel. I'll be back to probably Thursday with a new video and the podcast on Thursday night. And in 5 minutes, you can catch me on Jesse's stream where we're talking about Batman. So from all of us here on the High Council, thank you very much for watching. And as always, folks, be excellent to each other.